Money has a way of revealing people's true colors, but sometimes it takes years for those colors to finally show themselves. I learned this lesson the hard way at my brother's dinner party as I watched my parents beam with pride while announcing they'd given him a $50,000 down payment for his new house. My $50,000. I'm Sarah, and this is the story of how I finally stopped being the good daughter. 5 years earlier, I sat across from my father at our family's worn kitchen table, watching him struggle to form words. His hands trembled as he held the termination letter. 25 years at the same company, and they let him go with a pathetic severance package. I don't know how we'll keep the house, he whispered, his voice cracking. Your mother? She can't handle losing our home. I knew what he was asking without him having to say it. I'd just received a substantial bonus at work and had been saving to start my own business. The money represented freedom, dreams, possibilities. How much do you need? I heard myself ask. 50,000 would tide us over until I find something new, he said, eyes down. I'll pay you back as soon as I can with the interest. I wrote the check that evening. Mom hugged me, tears in her eyes, whispering how I was such a good girl. Dad insisted on writing up a simple agreement, which I still have tucked away in my desk drawer. My brother Archer was traveling Europe at the time, living his best life on our parents' dime, completely oblivious to the family crisis. That was then. Now, 5 years later, I sat at another dinner table, this one in an upscale restaurant, watching my family fawn over Archer's latest achievement. To the new homeowner, Mom raised her glass, her face glowing. We're so proud of you, sweetheart. Archer grinned, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. Couldn't have done it without you guys. That down payment was everything. I froze, my fork halfway to my mouth. Down payment? Oh, yes, Dad chimed in. We've been saving to help him get started. You know how impossible the housing market is these days. The room started spinning. I set my fork down carefully, trying to keep my voice steady. How much was the down payment? 50,000, Archer said proudly. Got me a great interest rate, too. My best friend Mara's words from years ago echoed in my head. They'll never treat you the same as him. You're the responsible one, the backup plan. He's the golden child. I excused myself to the bathroom, hands shaking as I splashed cold water on my face. When I returned, they were already planning the housewarming party. Later that night, I confronted my parents in their driveway. That was my money, I said quietly. The money I loaned you to save your house. Mom's face changed, her warm smile replaced by something harder. Sarah, dear, that was years ago. We needed it then, and now Archer needed it. He's starting his life. And what about my life, my business plans? You're doing fine, she dismissed with a wave. You've always been so practical. Archer has bigger dreams. He needs the boost. I want my money back. Dad stepped forward, his face stern. Now, Sarah, don't be difficult. It's just money. And look how happy your brother is. Family helps family. I laughed, a hollow sound in the dark driveway. Funny how that only seems to work one way. You're being selfish, Mom snapped. This isn't like you. But it was like me. It had always been like me, the responsible one and the practical one, the one who sacrificed everything for family, while Archer got handed the world on a silver platter. I turned to leave, but Mom grabbed my arm. Sarah, please, don't make this into something ugly. We're family. I looked at her hand on my arm, then into her eyes. Yes, we are. And I'm finally starting to see exactly what that means. As I drove home that night, tears blurred my vision. But something else was building inside me, something that had been dormant for years. Rage, pure, clarifying rage. I pulled into my driveway and took out my phone. My fingers hovered over Mara's number. She'd become a successful attorney since our college days. She'd know exactly what to do. Before I could press dial, a text from Archer lit up my screen. "Thanks for coming tonight, sis. Can't wait for you to see the house. You'll love it." I stared at his message, a plan already forming in my mind. Oh, I'd see the house all right, and so would everyone else. Sometimes karma needs a little push, and I was done being the good daughter. "They did what?" Mara's voice crackled through my phone speaker as I paced my living room. It was 11 p.m., but I couldn't sleep. "Gave my money to Archer, like it was theirs to give." "That's not just wrong, Sarah. That's illegal." I heard rustling papers on her end. "Send me that loan agreement, now." I dug through my desk drawer and snapped a photo of the wrinkled document. Dad's signature looked so sincere on that paper. What a joke. "Got it," Mara said. "This is actually pretty solid for a family agreement. Have you tried asking them directly for repayment?" I laughed bitterly. Mom said I was being difficult and selfish. Apparently Archer's dreams are worth more than mine. Of course she did. Mara's eye roll was practically audible. "Listen, Imran specializes in property law. Come over for dinner tomorrow. We'll figure this out." The next morning, I decided to visit Archer's new house. He'd been blowing up my phone with excited texts about paint colors and furniture. Playing the supportive big sister one last time wouldn't hurt. Archer met me at the door in designer workout clothes, perfect hair slightly tousled. "Sarah, you're just in time. The interior designer just left some samples." The house was gorgeous. High ceilings, hardwood floors, huge windows. My money well spent, apparently. Family photos lined the entryway. Archer's graduation, his travels, Mom and Dad beaming beside him. None of me. "What do you think?" He gestured proudly around the living room. "Pretty amazing, right?" "It's beautiful," I said, meaning it. "Must have been expensive." "Worth every penny. Mom and Dad really came through with the down payment. I mean, who has 50 grand just lying around?" I did. I had it lying around for my dreams. "Actually," I said carefully, "where did they get that kind of money? Dad's been retired for years." Archer shrugged, arranging fabric swatches on his new coffee table. "They've always been good with money. Remember how they handled that rough patch when Dad lost his job?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "I remember exactly how they handled it." He was still talking about crown molding when I spotted it. A stack of papers on his desk. The top sheet showed the exact amount, $50,000. The date matched perfectly with when my parents gifted him the money. My phone buzzed. "Mara, dinner at 7. Imran's making his famous curry. Bring wine and that righteous anger of yours." That evening, over steaming plates of curry, I laid out everything to Mara and Imran. The loan, the betrayal, the house. "They're counting on your silence," Imran said, leaning forward. "Family pressure keeps most people quiet in these situations." "Not this time," I said firmly. "Good." He pulled out a legal pad. "Because I have an idea. How do you feel about property liens?" Mara's eyes lit up. "Oh, that's deliciously evil." "It's perfectly legal," Imran explained. "We file a lien for the original amount plus interest. It becomes public record, affects the property title, impacts their mortgage." "Would it hurt his ability to sell?" I asked. "He'd have to settle the debt first. And here's the best part. We can file it quietly. They won't know until it's done." I took a long sip of wine. "Tell me more." "But timing is everything," Mara added. "When do you want them to find out?" My phone buzzed again. Another text from Archer. "Having a housewarming party next month. Mom's already planning everything. You'll help, right?" I showed them the message, a slow smile spreading across my face. "I think I know exactly when." "Sarah," Mara said seriously, "are you sure about this? It will change everything with your family. I thought about all the times I'd swallowed my feelings, all the times I'd been the responsible one, the practical one, the good daughter, all the times they'd taken advantage of that. They changed everything when they stole my money and gave it to their golden child. I'm just making it official. Imran nodded, already writing. I'll start the paperwork tomorrow. Later that night, I replied to Archer's text. Of course I'll help. What are sisters for? I slept better that night than I had in years. Maybe it was the wine, or maybe it was finally standing up for myself. Either way, I dreamed of karma, justice, and the look on their faces when they realized the good daughter had finally had enough. The next morning, I had 3 missed calls from Mom, probably wanting to discuss party plans. I let them go to voicemail. I had other plans to focus on. You kept the bank receipt too? Imran spread the documents across his desk, clearly impressed. Most people don't think to save everything. I learned early to keep records when dealing with my family, I said, pulling out more papers. Here's the original agreement, the check carbon copy, even the thank you card Mom sent me after. Mara picked up the card, reading aloud, Your generosity will never be forgotten. Well, that aged like milk. The interest calculations are straightforward, Imran said, typing numbers into his calculator. With the standard rate over 5 years, they owe you closer to $65,000 now. My phone buzzed. Mom again. Sarah, darling, we need to discuss the housewarming menu. Call me back. I silenced the phone. How long until the lien is filed? 2 weeks max, but once it's filed, it's public record. Anyone can find it. Perfect timing for the party then, Mara grinned. As I left their office, I quite literally ran into Savannah, Archer's fiancée, outside the local cafe. Papers flew everywhere. Sarah, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. She helped me gather the scattered documents. I was just thinking about you. Are you excited about the housewarming? I quickly tucked the legal papers into my bag. Absolutely. Wouldn't miss it. Great. I'm heading to the party planner now. Want to join? Your input would mean so much to Archer. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for Savannah. She had no idea what she was marrying into. Sure, I heard myself say. Let me buy you a coffee first. Over lattes, Savannah bubbled with enthusiasm. We're thinking of making it a real event. Catering, live music, the works. Archer's friend Taylor is helping too. Sounds expensive, I commented. Oh, Archer's parents are covering everything. They're so generous. Did you know they gave us the down payment too? I mean, who does that? I stirred my coffee slowly. They've always been selective with their generosity. What do you mean? Nothing, I smiled. Tell me more about the party plans. An hour later, I had every detail, guest list, timeline, even the exact moment they planned to make their speeches. Savannah had unknowingly given me the perfect blueprint for my revelation. Back home, I found another voicemail from Mom. Sarah, this is getting ridiculous. The party is important to your brother. Stop being difficult. I played it for Mara over the phone that evening. God, she's really something, Mara said. Still trying to control you with guilt. Not anymore. I opened my laptop, showing her the screen over video chat. Look what I found in my email archives. Is that? Every email where they promised to pay me back. Dad even laid out a payment plan he never followed. I forwarded them to Imran. More evidence for our file. You know, Mara said carefully, there's still time to back out. Just demand the money privately. I thought about Mom's dismissive wave in the driveway, Dad's stern disappointment, Archer's oblivious privilege. No, they need to face this publicly, just like they publicly favored him all these years. My doorbell rang. A delivery man held out a package. Inside was a custom photo album with a note from Mom. For displaying at the housewarming, I've collected all our favorite family memories. I flipped through it. Every page showed Archer's achievements, parties, graduations. The few photos of me were group shots where I stood in the background, always slightly out of focus. I took a picture and sent it to Mara. More evidence of their selective memory. She replied immediately, Imran filed the preliminary paperwork today. No turning back now. That night I drafted my speech for the party. It needed to be perfect, calm, collected, but devastating. Every word a carefully placed landmine. My phone lit up with a text from Archer. Sis, Mom says you're being weird about the party. Everything okay? I typed back. Everything's fine. Just busy with work. Don't worry. I'm planning something special for your big day. You're the best, sis. Can't wait. I saved the text thread. One more piece of evidence for my growing file. One more reminder of why I was doing this. The next morning, I had my first moment of doubt. Was I really ready to blow up my entire family? Then I checked my mail. Inside was an invitation to the housewarming party, embossed in gold. Come celebrate our dream home. Our dream home, bought with my stolen dreams. I RSVP'd immediately. Absolutely. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Sometimes the best revenge is served with a smile and perfect documentation. The housewarming party was exactly as over the top as I expected. String lights twinkled across the manicured lawn, and a jazz quartet played softly in the corner. Catering staff weaved through clusters of well-dressed guests, offering champagne and artisan appetizers. I adjusted my carefully chosen outfit, a sleek black dress that had cost nearly a month's salary. If I was going to destroy my family's facade, I'd look damn good doing it. Sarah! Mom rushed over, air kissing my cheek. Finally! I was worried you wouldn't show. Love the dress, though maybe a bit dark for a celebration. I thought it was perfect for tonight. I smiled, handing her an expensive bottle of champagne. Where's the guest of honor? Showing off the kitchen remodel. Did you see the imported marble countertops? Yes, I thought. I paid for them. I'll go congratulate him. I made my way through the crowd, accepting hugs and small talk. Archer held court in the kitchen, surrounded by admirers. There's my big sister. He pulled me into a hug. You've been so busy lately, I was starting to think you were avoiding us. Just making sure everything was perfect for tonight. I gestured to Savannah, who was showing off her engagement ring to some guests. How's the wedding planning going? Amazing. Mom's already talking about helping with the down payment on a bigger house once we have kids. My hand tightened around my champagne glass. How generous of her. Taylor, Archer's best friend, appeared with more drinks. Sarah, ready for the speeches later? I hear you're closing them out. Wouldn't have it any other way. I spotted Imran entering through the front door, right on schedule. He caught my eye and gave an almost imperceptible nod. The papers had been served. Mom clinked her glass, gathering everyone's attention. If everyone could move to the living room, we'd like to start the toast. I watched the crowd shuffle in, taking mental snapshots of their faces. In 30 minutes, those same faces would be twisted with shock. Sarah, Mara whispered, appearing at my elbow. Last chance to back out. Not a chance. I straightened my spine. Is everything set? Imran confirmed the lien was filed this afternoon. It's official. Mom was arranging people near the fireplace, positioning Archer and Savannah in the center like they were royalty. Dad stood proudly beside them, beaming. Taylor started the speeches, telling funny stories about house hunting with Archer. More friends followed, each toast more glowing than the last. Then Dad stepped forward, glass raised. When Archer told us he wanted to buy a house, we knew we had to help. That's what family does. We support each other's dreams. My laugh was just loud enough to make Mom shoot me a warning look. Archer spoke next. I couldn't have done this without my amazing parents. Their generosity made this dream possible. And of course, my beautiful fiancée, Savannah, who makes this house a home. Applause filled the room. Mom turned to me, eyebrows raised expectantly. Sarah, would you like to say something about your brother's achievement? I would love to. I moved to the center of the room, champagne glass held high. My hands weren't shaking anymore. What can I say about this beautiful house? The room quieted, all eyes on me. Mara positioned herself near the door. Imran stood quietly in the corner, legal papers ready. Family really is everything, isn't it? I continued, my voice clear and steady. The sacrifices we make for each other, the trust we place in each other, the debts we owe each other. Mom's smile faltered slightly. 5 years ago, I made a sacrifice for this family. I loaned my parents $50,000 when they were about to lose their house. They promised to pay me back. I turned to face Archer directly. Instead, they gave it to you. The room went deadly quiet. Savannah's hand flew to her mouth. Sarah, Dad warned, stepping forward, this isn't the time. Actually, it's exactly the time. I pulled out my phone, showing the banking app. The exact amount you gave Archer for his down payment, my money, my sacrificed dreams, my business that never started. Archer's face had gone pale. What is she talking about? Oh, they never told you? I smiled. Ask them about the loan agreement they signed. Ask them about the promises they made. Better yet, I nodded to Imran, who stepped forward with the papers. Ask them about the lien I just filed on your new house. The champagne glass in Mom's hand crashed to the floor, shattering in perfect synchronization with her carefully constructed image of family harmony. Sometimes karma needs an audience. What do you mean, a lien? Archer's voice cracked as he stared at the papers in Imran's hands. The jazz quartet had stopped playing, leaving only the sound of shocked whispers filling the room. It means, I said, my voice carrying clearly, that your house now has a legal claim against it for $65,000, the original loan plus interest. You're lying. Mom stepped forward, glass crunching under her heels. We never signed anything. Imran cleared his throat. Actually, Mrs. James, I have the original loan agreement right here, with both your signatures. Savannah grabbed the papers, her eyes widening as she read. Archer, this is real. There's a legal document from 5 years ago. Mom? Archer turned to our parents, his face flushed. Dad, what's going on? Dad's shoulders slumped. We were going to lose everything. Sarah helped us. And then you took my money and gave it to him. I pointed to the marble countertops, the hardwood floors. All of this built on my stolen dreams. Stolen? Mom's voice rose sharply. We're your parents. Everything we've done has been for this family. For this family, I laughed. You mean for Archer, always for Archer. The guests began edging toward the door, but I wasn't done. I pulled out my phone and started reading emails. Dear Sarah, we'll start paying you back next month. That was 4 years ago. Sarah, honey, just give us until Christmas. 3 years ago. Sarah, we're still a bit tight, but soon. 2 years ago. I looked up. Want to hear more? Stop this right now, Mom hissed. You're ruining everything. No, you ruined everything when you betrayed me. Savannah stepped away from Archer, her engagement ring catching the light. You knew about this? You knew this house was bought with stolen money? I didn't know, Archer protested. Mom, tell her I didn't know. Taylor awkwardly raised his hand. Maybe I should cancel the champagne tower. The lien is already filed, Imran explained calmly. It's public record now. Any potential mortgage refinancing, sale, or even your upcoming wedding property arrangements will be affected until the debt is settled. Wedding arrangements? Savannah's voice went up an octave. Archer, we're supposed to close on the marriage property contract next week. We can fix this, Dad said desperately. Sarah, please, we'll figure something out. Like you figured it out the last 5 years? I pulled out the photo album Mom had sent. Look at this. Every family photo, every celebration, every proud moment, all Archer. I was just the ATM you kept in the background. Mom grabbed the album. That's not true. We love you both equally. Equally? I gestured around the room. Show me one thing in this house that equals what you stole from me. One thing that matches my sacrifice business, my delayed life. The remaining guests were practically sprinting for the door now. Mara stood guard, making sure no one interrupted. I think, Savannah said quietly, slipping off her engagement ring, I need some time to think about everything. She placed the ring on the marble countertop and walked out. Savannah, wait! Archer called after her, then turned to me. Are you happy now? You've ruined everything. No, little brother. Mom and Dad ruined everything. I'm just making sure everyone knows it. We did what was best, Mom insisted, but her voice wavered. Archer needed, I cut her off. What about what I needed? What about my dreams, my future? The lien can be settled immediately, Imran interjected, with full payment of the debt. Otherwise, it remains on the property indefinitely. Dad reached for his wallet. I'll write a check right now? No. I held up my hand. I want everyone to live with this for a while. Let it sink in. Let the consequences play out. You vindictive little... Mom started, but Dad grabbed her arm. Cecilia, stop. We did this. The jazz quartet had packed up their instruments. The catering staff was awkwardly clearing abandoned champagne glasses. Taylor had disappeared, probably calling everyone who hadn't arrived yet to warn them away. I picked up my purse, ready to leave. Enjoy the house, Archer. Every time you look at these beautiful walls, remember what they really cost. Sarah, please. Mom tried one last time. We're family. I turned at the door, Mara and Imran flanking me. Yes, we are, and now everyone knows exactly what kind of family we are. As we walked out, I heard the first sob. Archer, probably realizing his perfect life wasn't so perfect anymore. But I didn't look back. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth, it's making everyone live with it. You can't leave yet, Dad called after me, his footsteps quick on the stone pathway. We need to fix this now. I turned around in the driveway, where shocked guests were hurriedly getting into their cars. Fix it? Like you fixed it when you stole my money? We didn't steal. He stopped as Imran cleared his throat meaningfully. Look, I'll write you a check right now. We can make this go away. Make it go away, I laughed. Like you made me go away every time Archer needed something? Mom burst out of the house, mascara streaking down her face. Savannah just called her parents. Do you have any idea what you've done to this family's reputation? Our reputation? I gestured to the departing guests. You mean the reputation you built on lies and theft? It wasn't theft. Mom's voice rose hysterically. We're your parents. Being parents doesn't give you the right to steal my future. Archer appeared in the doorway, his perfect hair now disheveled. My mortgage broker just called. The lien is already showing up in the system. Of course it is, Imran said smoothly. Property lines are filed electronically these days, very efficient. This is insane, Archer ran his hands through his hair. I can't believe you do this to your own brother. Really? I stepped closer to him. I can't believe you never once asked where Mom and Dad got $50,000 when Dad hasn't worked in years. I assumed. You assumed what? That money just appears when Golden Child Archer needs something? Savannah's car peeled out of the driveway, gravel sprang. Archer watched her go, his face crumpling. I'll pay you back. Dad tried again. Just remove the lien. Like you paid me back all those other times you promised? I pulled out my phone. Should I read those emails again? Stop it! Mom grabbed for my phone, but Mara stepped between us. I wouldn't, she said quietly. Assault charges wouldn't look good on top of everything else. A neighbor had come out to watch the drama unfolding. More faces appeared in nearby windows. This is just money, Mom pleaded. Family is more important than money. This was never about money, I shouted, finally losing my composure. This was about you always choosing him, about you stealing my dreams to fund his, about you thinking I wouldn't fight back. Fight back? Archer scoffed. This isn't fighting back. This is nuclear revenge. No, I turned to him. This is consequences, something you've never had to face. Taylor emerged from the house carrying boxes of unopened champagne. So, I guess we're not doing the midnight toast? Get out, Taylor, Archer snapped. Your mortgage company will be calling tomorrow, Imran explained calmly. The lien affects your ability to maintain the current terms. You might want to contact your lawyer. Our lawyer? Mom straightened up. Fine, we'll get our lawyer involved. Please do, Imran smiled. I'd love to explain to them how you misappropriated a documented loan. Dad stepped forward, his voice low. Sarah, please, we can work this out privately, as a family. We stopped being a family the moment you decided my money was yours to give away. A car door slammed. Savannah had come back. She marched up to Archer, eyes blazing. My father just called our wedding planner, she said. Apparently, we need to reassess the financial situation before proceeding with deposits. Savannah, baby, please, don't baby me. Were you ever going to tell me about this? About where the money really came from? Mom tried to intervene. Savannah, dear, you don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. Savannah's voice was ice. I understand that my future in-laws are thieves and my fiancé is either complicit or an idiot. She turned to me. I'm sorry they did this to you. I really am. But I'm also sorry you waited until after I planned half a wedding to blow everything up. That's fair, I nodded. But would you rather have found out after? Savannah looked at her engagement ring, then at Archer. I need time. A lot of time. She walked away again, this time slower, more final. The neighbor was now openly recording with his phone. Mom noticed and hurried inside, pulling Dad with her. Archer stood frozen, watching his perfect life crumble. The lien paperwork is on your kitchen counter, Imran called after them, in case you want to read the terms. I turned to leave, but Archer grabbed my arm. Why? He whispered. Why like this? I looked at his hand on my arm, then into his eyes. Because you never saw me. None of you did. But you see me now, don't you? I walked away, leaving him standing in the driveway of his dream house, a house built on stolen dreams. Behind me, I heard Mom start to cry again, but this time I didn't feel guilty at all. The next morning, my phone showed 27 missed calls. Mom, Dad, Archer, even Taylor. Only Savannah's message was worth reading. I moved out this morning. You were right. Better to know now. I was sipping coffee when someone pounded on my door. Through the peephole, I saw Dad looking haggard in yesterday's clothes. I know you're in there, Sarah, he called out. The bank just called. They're reviewing Archer's mortgage. I opened the door but blocked the entrance. Sounds like a problem between Archer and his bank. This isn't you, he pleaded. You're not vindictive like this. You're right. I learned it from you and Mom. He deflated, suddenly looking every bit his 60 years. We made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting my birthday. This was calculated theft. We were trying to help your brother by stealing from me. I stepped onto my porch, forcing him back. Do you know what that money was for? My business plan? The contracts I had lined up? You never told us. I told you every time I asked for repayment, every time you promised next month or after Christmas or when things get better. But things only got better for Archer, didn't they? A car pulled up. Mom and Archer. Great. Family intervention time. The mortgage company wants immediate resolution, Archer said, waving his phone. They're threatening to adjust our rates. Sounds expensive, I replied. Maybe Mom and Dad can help. They're so generous with other people's money. This isn't funny, Mom snapped. Your brother could lose his house. Like you almost lost yours before I stepped in? That was different. Why? Because it was you? Because precious Archer needs it more? Because we're your parents, Mom's voice cracked. Everything we did was for this family. No, I said quietly. Everything you did was for him. I was just the backup plan, the responsible one, the ATM. Archer stepped forward. Look, I'll take out a loan, pay you back myself. With what collateral? The house you bought with my money? Stop saying that, Mom shrieked. Stop throwing this in our faces. Why? Because the truth hurts? Because the neighbors might hear? Because your perfect family image is cracking? I called the grandma, Archer said. She's horrified at what you're doing. I laughed. Did you tell her where the money came from? Or did you feed her the same lies you've been telling everyone else? Dad tried again. Sarah, please, we're sorry. We should have asked. Asked? You should have paid me back. You should have respected me. You should have treated me like I mattered. The door across the street opened. My neighbor Susan came out to check her mail, clearly eavesdropping. The wedding venue needs an answer by tomorrow, Archer said. Savannah won't return my calls. Smart girl, I nodded. She saw what took me years to see. And what's that? Mom demanded. That this family is built on lies, that your love comes with conditions, that Archer gets everything while I get empty promises. That's not true, Dad protested. Really? Name one time you sacrificed for me like I did for you. One time you put my needs first. The silence was deafening. The lien stays, I said firmly, until I'm paid back in full with interest. And not just the money. I want a public apology. I want everyone to know what you did. You're destroying this family, Mom cried. No, you destroyed it. I'm just making sure everyone sees the ruins. Archer's phone buzzed. His face fell as he read the message. Savannah's parents want to meet with their lawyer. Karma's interesting, isn't it? I smiled. How everything comes out eventually? We could have handled this privately. Dad tried one last time. Like you handled stealing from me privately, taking my dreams privately, favoring Archer privately. More neighbors were watching now. Susan had given up pretending to check her mail. Get off my property, I said quietly, all of you. Have your lawyers contact Imran. That's all you'll get from me now. Sarah. Mom reached for me, but I stepped back. You know what's funny? I kept hoping you'd see me, really see me. Now you do, and you're horrified by what you created. I went inside and locked the door, leaving them standing on my porch. Through the window, I watched them slowly return to their cars, defeated. My phone buzzed with a text from Mara. You okay? I typed back, never better. Turns out revenge doesn't just expose others, it frees you too. Outside, I heard their cars start up. Mom was crying again. Dad looked broken. Archer was on his phone, probably calling another lawyer. But for the first time in years, I felt light, free, seen. Sometimes the best revenge is simply standing up and saying, no more. The certified letter arrived on a sunny Tuesday morning. Inside was a cashier's check for $65,000, along with a handwritten note from Dad. You were right. We were wrong. The public apology will be in tomorrow's paper. I called Mara immediately. They paid the whole amount? Every penny. I stared at the check. Apparently, they took out a home equity loan on their house. Ironic, she laughed. Taking out a loan to pay back a loan. My doorbell rang. Savannah stood there, looking elegant as always. Can we talk? I let her in, offering coffee. She settled onto my couch, hands clasped tightly. The wedding's officially canceled, she said, but that's not why I'm here. I want to invest in your business. I nearly dropped my mug. What? Archer told me about your original business plan, the one you had to abandon. It's brilliant. I showed it to my father and he agrees. How did Archer know about? Your parents finally told him everything. All the opportunities you gave up. All the times you helped them. He's different now. Humbled. My phone buzzed. A text from Imran. Just filed the lien release. The house is clear. I don't need investors, I started, but Savannah cut me off. This isn't charity, it's business. My father's venture capital firm wants to meet with you. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Mom, have you seen the paper? She asked, her voice small. It's not out until tomorrow. They let us preview it. I need you to know we meant every word. I'll read it tomorrow. Sarah, her voice cracked, we're selling the house. The big one we kept after Dad retired, the one you helped us save. It's too much space anyway, and, well, we need to make things right. I ended the call and looked at Savannah. Why would you want to work with me after what I did to your wedding? Because you did what I couldn't. Stood up to toxic family dynamics. Besides, she smiled, my father always says invest in someone who knows their worth. The next morning, the newspaper's apology section was impossible to miss. My parents had bought a full page, to our daughter Sarah and our community. We write this to publicly acknowledge our profound betrayal of trust. 5 years ago, our daughter saved our home with a substantial loan. Instead of repaying her, we gave that money to our son for his house down payment. We prioritized one child's dreams while stealing another's. We fostered favoritism, enabled entitlement, and broke sacred trust. Our actions cost more than money. They cost relationships, respect, and family bonds. We are deeply sorry for our betrayal, our lies, and our failure to treat both our children equally. To Sarah, you deserved better. Your dreams mattered. They still matter. Cecilia and Reginald. My phone started ringing. First Archer. I sold the house, he said without preamble. Taking a loss, but it's done. I'm moving into a small apartment, getting a second job. Archer. No, let me finish. I've been thinking about what you said, about consequences, about seeing you. I never saw you, Sarah. None of us did. I'm sorry. Next was Dad. The small house closes next week, he said. Your mother is adjusting, but we're doing what we should have done years ago, living within our means, taking responsibility. I met with Savannah's father that afternoon. He reviewed my business plan, asked sharp questions, and made an offer that left me speechless. Why? I asked. Because you showed integrity, resilience, and business sense. You documented everything, planned carefully, and executed precisely. That's exactly what I look for in an investment. That evening, Mara and Imran came over with wine. To karma, Mara raised her glass. To consequences, Imran added. To finally being seen, I said. My phone lit up with a text from Mom. We're having a small dinner next week. Just family. To talk. Really talk. Will you come? I looked at the newspaper apology, the business contract, the lien release. All the pieces of justice and vindication I'd fought for. Yes, I texted back. But this time we do it my way. Mara read the text over my shoulder. Are you sure? I nodded. They've lost their power over me. Now we can either build something new or walk away completely. Either way, it's my choice. And that, Imran raised his glass again, is the best revenge of all. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. Sometimes justice isn't about getting even, it's about getting free, and I was finally completely free.
Today marks the beginning of my sister and her husband moving in with us. We had hoped to avoid hosting anyone we didn't know, but suddenly Jayan and my sister's husband stormed into our home. Jayan was visibly upset about the separation, stating it was due to their impending divorce. He accused me of treating him like a servant, claiming it constituted emotional abuse. Meanwhile, my sister exaggerated her distress, pretending to cry as she declared she couldn't endure the marriage any longer and would be divorcing Jayan. She insisted she deserved our house in the divorce, citing the 2 years she had endured their relationship. Jayan lamented the $300 in living expenses someone would have to cover. The next day, I relocated to a luxurious $2 million facility, and my phone buzzed incessantly with frantic calls from Jayan and his sister. My name is Anna Smith, and I recently celebrated my 40th birthday. I work as a day trader and investor, engaging in buying and selling currencies and stocks. This career has allowed me to amass a respectable fortune, even with a congenital condition that isn't life-threatening but requires careful management. Doctors have advised me to avoid overexertion and caution me about the risks of pregnancy. My parents didn't shield me from this reality. Instead, they instilled in me the importance of facing my illness with determination. My father, who worked in a brokerage firm, shared his knowledge of stocks, providing me the foundation to make a living from it. My husband, John, is 32 years my junior, and we've been married for 2 years. Our paths crossed when he began working as a waiter at my favorite restaurant. Initially, I viewed him as just a cute employee, but over time, our friendship blossomed into something deeper. Before long, we were discussing marriage, concerned about my ability to have children. I hesitated to accept his proposal, but John reassured me, saying, "I want to spend my life with you, Anna. That's why I proposed. If I wanted kids, I would have chosen someone else. Don't you trust me?" Overwhelmed with happiness, I finally accepted. Shortly after we tied the knot, John surprised me with his decision to stay home. "I don't dislike my job as a waiter, but wouldn't it be easier for you if I managed things at home? Plus, you know I am a good cook." It's true, John has always had a flair for cooking, learning through observation rather than formal training. That shared passion for food is how we first connected. My brother works in the restaurant industry, and when John discovered this, he eagerly discussed his dream of one day owning a restaurant. When I questioned how becoming a stay-at-home husband might affect his aspirations, John replied confidently, "Do you think being at home means I can't pursue my goals? That's a limited perspective. Taking care of the home is important work. Besides, I want to be with you as much as I can." His eyes shone with sincerity, and I realized how much he cherished our time together. His proposal for staying at home felt so genuine that I couldn't resist agreeing. At first, everything went smoothly. I focused on work while John managed the household. However, as time passed, things began to unravel. Our once spotless living room transformed into a cluttered space, filled with comic books and video game paraphernalia. John started spending nights engrossed in games on the couch, flipping his schedule upside down. "John, this is getting out of hand." I finally confronted him. "Yeah, I'm really into this game right now. Can you let it slide until I finish it?" he pleaded. Reluctantly, I agreed, but it didn't stop there. He quickly moved on to another game, leaving our home in disarray. At the start of our marriage, John was diligent about cleaning and creating a comfortable environment. What had changed? I tolerated it for several months, but eventually, I couldn't hold back any longer. "John, we need to talk." About what?" I felt more like a frustrated parent than a partner, addressing a grown man acting like a child. "We're married and supposed to be equals. You chose to stay home, so please honor your responsibilities. I'm not saying you can't have fun, but you need to finish your chores first." I laid everything out, and after a pause, John responded, "I understand. I'm sorry for slacking off. I'll only play after I finish my chores, I promise." True to his word, JM resumed his responsibilities as a stay-at-home husband, but something was undeniably off. He seemed perpetually unhappy. Once filled with joy while cooking and taking pride in a tidy home, he now rushed through chores and retreated to his room more often than not. Instead of enjoying his games in the living room or reading comics on the sofa, he isolated himself, immersed in online gaming. "Sorry, I have a dungeon raid tonight. Can you eat alone? I'll wash the dishes later," he would say. As I sat her down for dinner, I watched him disappear into his room. Even when the food was delicious, eating alone dulled the experience. It wasn't just dinner. Nearly every night, he'd announce, "I have a guild battle tonight. Not sure when I'll be back. Go to bed without me." And he often wouldn't return to our bedroom at all. During the day, he frequently ventured out alone. If I inquired about his plans, he'd simply say he was going shopping, only to come home late in the evening. Although he consistently prepared my meals and left them ready, this gesture began to feel more like mockery than kindness. He managed all the household, chores, cleaning, laundry, cooking, so I felt I had no grounds for complaint. But this wasn't the family life I envisioned. It felt more like cohabiting with an enlivened housekeeper. Our conversations dwindled to almost nothing. I'd find myself eating cold meals alone, changing into freshly washed clothes, and sitting in a spotless house, all the while feeling deeply lonely. In those moments, I often thought that solitude might feel less isolating than this emptiness. I'd stare at John's closed bedroom door, tears brimming from my sadness, but I clung to the hope that things would improve. I believed we could return to our happy life together, so I endured in silence. Then, after nearly a year of this lonely routine, John dropped a bombshell. "Starting today, my sister and her husband are moving in with us. Can't they find somewhere else to stay?" I protested, taken aback as JN and my sister-in-law's husband barged into our home. I distinctly remember when John had moved in with me after we got married. His sister and her husband had found their own apartment. "What do you mean, John? Are you moving out to go back to your old apartment?" I asked, bewildered. The three of them exchanged glances before bursting into laughter. No, I'm staying here with my sister and her husband. You're the one moving out," John clarified, leaving me utterly confused. "Why do I have to leave this house?" I'd inquired, still grappling with the unexpected turn of events. "Because we can't live together as a married couple anymore," JN said, accusing me of treating him like a maid and emotionally abusing him. "That's terrible," John's sister chimed in dramatically, wiping away non-existent tears. "I can't take it anymore. I'm divorcing you. I deserve the house in the property division. I've endured this for 2 years, so it's only fair, right?" "Yes, exactly," John affirmed, bolstered by his sister's support. Meanwhile, her husband stood by, smirking at the unfolding drama. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. John had been orchestrating this all along, charming me into marriage, only to stage a divorce when it suited him. Just as he hinted earlier, he had his sights set on various benefits from our relationship. I had never imagined myself getting married, knowing I couldn't have children and feeling average in every way. I had resigned myself to an independent life, focusing on my career and hobbies, maintaining friendships, and enjoying a good relationship with my family. After my dad retired, my parents moved to his hometown, where my brother settled with his wife. He had worked in the restaurant industry and eventually started a small restaurant with her, living on the same spacious property as our parents. Being raised near the city made my visits to them feel like a homecoming rather than mere visits. During those family gatherings, I felt a deep sense of belonging, never experiencing loneliness. So marrying someone 10 years younger had caught me off guard. In hindsight, I realized I had been played. Listening to John and his sister bicker, I couldn't help but chuckle at my own gullibility. Deep down, I sensed this might happen. John's sudden and intense affection had felt like a fairy tale romance. Initially cautious, I had ultimately succumbed to his puppy-like charm. Now, I needed a plan. How could I flip the script? How could I make them taste their own medicine? As a day trader, I excelled at reading situations, anticipating outcomes, and steering things toward a positive direction. I had always succeeded, and I knew I could manage this situation. To no doubt about it, I would handle it. As I mulled over my next move, John and his sister continued to hurl insults at me. "Why are you so quiet? Hurry up and pack your things. Get ready to leave." Playing along, I replied calmly, "All right, I'll leave." I started packing only my essentials, clothes, my work laptop, and a few personal items. "Here, fill this out," John said, handing me a piece of paper. It was the divorce papers, with his sister and her husband already listed as witnesses. "I'll take care of filing these. I'll reach out if there's anything else I need," Jan said with a mocking smile, accompanied by his sister and her husband. They watched as I gathered my belongings and left my own condo. I had a place to stay for now. I would go there to gather my thoughts. I was sure they would have more to say soon, but I would deal with that when the time came. As I drove away from the condo, heading toward my destination, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. Arriving at my new place, I enjoyed a peaceful night's sleep and woke up feeling refreshed. I slept in later than usual and savored a leisurely brunch. The food here was always delicious, and it had been over 2 years since my last visit, especially since getting married. After a moment of contemplation, I sent John a message on WhatsApp, letting him know where I was and informing him that my lawyer would be handling everything from now on. Almost immediately, the phone rang, faster than I expected. "What's going on?" I heard John's sister shouting in the background, her voice slightly muffled. "What do you mean?" I replied calmly. "Don't pretend you don't know. Where are you?" John demanded, tension lacing his voice. "I'm here because I was kicked out. Is that a problem?" I responded evenly. "That's not what I meant," John snapped, frustration palpable. "That's a high-end resort, a members-only place. Why are you there?" "Because I'm a member," I stated matter-of-factly. "You never told me that," John protested. "Exactly, because it wasn't relevant," I explained. "It's not just a hotel, it's a luxury resort with lifelong care services. There's even a hospital nearby. It's known for its exclusivity, with an entry fee starting at $2 million, which made headlines." "Why did you become a member there?" John asked, bewildered. "Because I invested in the membership," I replied, keeping my tone steady. John sounded flabbergasted. "Someone suggested you should leave, right? So I decided to live here. If you want to stay in the house, go ahead. Just remember to pay the $300 monthly rent." "But that's your house." "What do you mean, rent?" "I've decided to sell it. I've been considering this for a while, and I won't be living there anymore," I clarified. "I never planned on getting married, and I bought this place to ensure I wouldn't burden anyone in my old age. I already purchased the condo I lived in until yesterday, but I needed to secure this spot quickly because prime facilities like this rarely become available. I took the opportunity with both hands. My plan was to move in here when I'm older. It's a bit far from the city, so retiring here full-time, while I can still work, felt premature. I kept it as a vacation home, visiting occasionally to unwind, but I only share this with my accountant and lawyer. "Give me that place too," John suddenly demanded. "I should get half of it." How convenient for him. I was astounded by his audacity. "I have no intention of giving it to you. From now on, please communicate with me through my lawyer. You have their contact information, right? Goodbye." With that, I hung up and turned off my phone, deciding to head to the spa to unwind not just from the stress of yesterday, but from the weight of the past 2 years. To my surprise, John and his sister's family showed up at the hotel the next day. John was arguing at the front desk, insisting he had the right to enter because he was family. I had already instructed the staff not to let anyone in without my explicit permission. This place was highly professional and respected my wishes. I considered ignoring them completely, but didn't want to create trouble for the facility. Reluctantly, I agreed to meet them in the hotel lobby, a public space with the concierge nearby, in case I needed assistance. When I asked what they wanted, John smiled and said, "Anna, you're so secretive. Why didn't you tell me about this place? Why keep it a secret?" "Yeah, why hide this from us?" his sister chimed in, echoing his smile. Together, they bore a striking resemblance, not just in appearance but in their manipulative nature. "We're no longer family, so I have no obligation to inform you. Please leave now. You're causing a disturbance." "We're still married," John retorted firmly. "No, we're not married anymore. I filed for divorce yesterday at the county office," I informed John, reminding him of my decisive action. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, seemingly forgetting he had initiated the divorce proceedings and handed me the papers. "Don't worry, divorced couples can remarry without waiting 6 months, his sister chimed in, her eyes hopeful. "No, thank you," I replied firmly. I stood up and began walking back to my room, ignoring their attempts to follow me. The concierge intervened to stop them. "I won't give up. I'll come here every day to show you how much I love you," John exclaimed determinedly. "You're so slick, John," I muttered under my breath as I walked away, feeling drained by their pathetic display. Without delay, I contacted my lawyer to take immediate action. This situation was escalating faster than I had anticipated, and their relentless behavior was wearing me down. I hadn't expected them to resort to this so soon after I left. They seemed determined to pursue pointless endeavors. John and his sister's family began showing up at the facility daily, lingering in the lobby, waiting for me. My lawyer swiftly filed for a restraining order, but they took it to a new extreme. "Anna deceived me into marriage. I demand compensation," John declared, claiming ignorance about my inability to have children. He insisted that if he had known, he would never have married me, threatening to accuse me of marriage fraud if I didn't agree to compensate him. I handed my lawyer a specific recording. I proposed to Anna because I wanted to live my life with her. If I wanted kids, I would have chosen someone else from the start. Don't you trust me? These were John's exact words during his proposal, and I had it recorded. John was furious, demanding to know why I possessed such a recording. It was simply due to my cautious nature. I'd always kept a recorder running when I sensed something significant might happen. It's a habit born from the belief that you never know what life might throw at you. Initially, I trusted John and would listen to this recording alone, reflecting on my feelings at that moment. Little did I know it would prove to be so valuable now. John accused me of forcing him to quit his job after our marriage and insisted I made him handle all the housework. He alleged emotional abuse and was demanding compensation, even threatening to report me to the police for coercion if I didn't comply. To counter his claims, I submitted another vital piece of evidence. I'll stay at home and take care of everything. I don't hate my job as a waiter, but wouldn't it be easier for you to work this way? You know I'm good at cooking. These were John's own words, expressing his desire to be a stay-at-home husband, and I had recorded them as well. John then attempted to shift his strategy, claiming emotional distress from being secretly recorded and threatening to report me for illegal recording if I didn't pay him. However, there's no specific crime called illegal recording. While certain actions related to recordings can lead to penalties, simply making a recording itself is not illegal under most circumstances. Undeterred, John escalated his demands for compensation related to the divorce itself, despite being the one who initiated it without valid grounds and handing me completed divorce papers. I had recorded that conversation, too. My lawyer explained that, given the circumstances, it was more likely that John owed me compensation instead. Finally, John tearfully pleaded for a division of assets. I agreed to consider his request and promised to assess the assets fairly. I need you to vacate the condo. Once we've evaluated everything, we can meet at the lawyer's office, I stated firmly. They left without further protest, allowing me to sell all the condo furnishings and list the property for sale. As I had predicted, due to the increasing property values, it sold for more than I initially anticipated. When I presented the total asset figures, John and his family appeared hopeful, assuming they would receive a substantial portion. So, do I get half of this? John eagerly asked upon hearing the total, which was in the tens of millions. Not quite. These figures reflect only assets acquired before our marriage, I clarified through my lawyer. John's expression darkened as he received a document showing his share as zero. The lawyer patiently explained, the bulk of these assets were acquired before your marriage, John, so legally, you have no claim to them. Regarding post-marriage income, you were entitled to half, but after deducting living expenses, necessary costs, and the compensation claimed, your share amounts to a negative value. Why do I owe compensation? John demanded. The lawyer then presented the evidence. John had been unfaithful. His affair was with a woman he met through an online game. John had divulged details about me, including my age and health condition, boasting that he would inherit all my assets if anything happened to me and flaunting his unrestricted spending. The woman didn't take him seriously, but accepted his money. She agreed to testify under the condition that I wouldn't seek compensation from her. And here's another thing she said, I added, playing a recording of the girl's testimony, where she confirmed John's statements about my health condition and his cynical remarks about having a child with me. Consider yourself lucky you're not facing legal consequences. Thanks to you, I've had some interesting dreams and enjoyed good food. Let's call it even, and I won't pursue this any further, I told John firmly. He hung his head in defeat and accepted the outcome. Thus, my brief marriage came to a messy end. I haven't kept track of what happened to John and his sister's family afterward, nor do I have any interest in knowing. As long as they stay out of my life, that's all that matters to me now. Dwelling on it would only prolong my misery. The emotional toll was significant, but thankfully, I had the resources and time to heal. I decided to take a world cruise on a luxury liner, where I met people from all over the globe, explored numerous destinations, and had a truly wonderful time. There were moments when I felt a spark with some individuals, but memories of John held me back. I was determined not to let myself get hurt again. With that resolve, I returned home and began building a new life for myself. For a while, I enjoyed a leisurely existence at the resort hotel, but soon I grew restless. At 40, I realized I was still young. Living with John, who was much younger, had made me overly conscious of my age. During my year-long cruise, I met a spirited woman in her 80s who was still seeking love and adventure half her age. I wondered why I should give up on everything. Despite my disappointment with John, loving someone had been enjoyable. What let him spoil the joy and possibility of loving again? That's how I began to feel. Just then, my phone lit up with a new message. It was from a man I had met on the cruise. It mentioned he would be visiting the U.S. soon and asked if we could have dinner together. He had been traveling with his high school-age daughter on the ship, and we had connected well, sharing moments at various ports. It had given me a glimpse into what it might feel like to have a daughter. I cherished those moments and replied eagerly, agreeing to meet. As I took this step forward from the midpoint of my life, I felt a renewed sense of excitement and possibility. For 2 decades, I've cherished a daughter who shares no blood ties with me. She's my stepdaughter, yes, but to me, she feels every bit like my own. I believe that wholeheartedly until everything took an unexpected turn. If they're going to treat me this way, I have my own feelings to voice. This is the tale of our unforgettable family. I'm Diane, 50 years old, and I've been married to Tom for 20 years from my first marriage, though his second. When I first met him, he already had a daughter, Sally, who was just 9. I wasn't aware of her existence when we started dating. It wasn't until I was head over heels for Tom that he opened up about his past, including his divorce and his daughter in elementary school. Once I learned about Sally, I was already deeply invested in Tom. He reciprocated my feelings, and 6 months later, he formally asked me to be his girlfriend. Despite this, I hesitated. Could I really find happiness marrying a man with a child? Those worries lingered in my mind until I decided to give the relationship a chance. As time passed, Sally and I grew closer. One evening, while we were having dinner, she surprised me by saying, "It would be nice if Diane could be my mom." Her words caught me off guard. It felt as if she'd been waiting to say them. Tom's eyes lit up as he replied, "I've been thinking the same thing. Diane, would you like to be part of our family?" It was in that moment that I felt we could truly make it work, and I gratefully accepted their proposal, solidifying our family bond. After our wedding, life was blissful. Sally relished the meals I prepared and often complimented my cooking. My husband would take us out on holidays, and the more time we spent together, the stronger our connection grew. Sure, we had our disagreements, but that's part of being a family, right? I felt fortunate to have married Tom. Yet, around the 10th year of our marriage, everything changed. One evening, I returned home from running errands to find the house enveloped in darkness. My husband and daughter should have been waiting for me, and we should have been gathered at the dinner table. Uneasy settled in as I called out to them, but neither answered their phones. Panic set in. What if something had happened? Should I call the police? Trying to calm myself, I waited until I heard the front door creak open and the sound of laughter. Relief washed over me as I stepped into the room. "Oh, thank goodness." I was worried because neither of you answered. I said, "My daughter," seemingly unfazed, coolly replied, "Oh, you're back. Just glad you're both safe. I'll start dinner so we can eat together," I suggested. "We already ate with Dee." "No thanks, you can eat alone," she said. "What? You had dinner without telling me? That's never happened before." "So that's how it is. A little heads up would have been nice," I responded. My words must have struck a nerve, as Tom suddenly snapped. "Why do we have to tell you everything? What Sally and I do is none of your business." Tom, I was taken aback. I had never seen him react like this before. We had our disagreements, but this was different. "This woman is scared of Dad. How hilarious," Sally chimed in. Tom added, "She's overstepping her boundaries as a stepmother. She's not even part of our real family." "Ha, exactly. The only one who's blood-related here is Dad," Sally sneered. I felt utterly blindsided. "Why are you treating me like this? We've been a happy family. What changed? Did I do something wrong?" I asked, bewildered. Their response was shocking. "Something wrong? It's you. You're the problem." "Right, Dad," Sally mocked. "Yeah, the way she pretends to be a good mother is infuriating," Tom agreed. "Is this for real? To be insulted like this by the two people I love most?" That night, I lost my appetite. After a long bath, I headed straight to bed, but my husband insisted that he felt uncomfortable sharing the room with me, so I ended up sleeping on the couch. From that day on, their coldness escalated. If they were merely distant, it would have been one thing, but what hurt most was hearing their laughter as they mocked me. "Dad, how long are we keeping her around?" "Well, as long as she's here, we won't have to worry about housework. Guess we can keep her until we get bored. Ha ha." "Seriously, Dad, you're way too kind." They ridiculed me as if I were the villain. I was baffled at first, unsure of why they had turned on me, but as time went on, I began to piece it together. One evening, I overheard Sally on the phone. Yeah, it's okay. We're about to kick her out. Kick me out. I held my breath, straining to remain unnoticed. So when are you coming back, Dad? I can't wait. Living together is so much better when my real mom is around. In that moment, everything clicked. The person on the other end was my husband's ex-wife, Sally's biological mother. It dawned on me Tom and Sally had started secretly meeting with her. Their affections began to shift back toward her, and I felt myself being compared to her. I realized they now saw me as inferior, which explained their sudden coldness. Their biological mother was returning, and I was being pushed aside. I guess leaving is inevitable. Initially, I considered filing for divorce right away, but realistically, I've been a stay-at-home mom, dedicating all my time to raising Sally, while her college fund drained our finances. The small amounts I earn from odd jobs are barely enough to make a difference. There's no way I can afford to get a divorce and move out right now. I thought about taking on a part-time job, but if Tom found out, it would just create more trouble. I even tried a few work-from-home gigs, but let's be honest, those brought in just a couple $100. There's no chance I could save enough to make the move. Meanwhile, my husband and daughter's cold treatment hasn't changed. Perhaps I've developed a thicker skin because it doesn't affect me as much anymore, but living with people who likely despise me feels like a constant torment. Then, one day, something unexpected happened. He actually spoke to me. Hey, I'm getting married. What? Married? Sally, at 29, was certainly at an age where marriage was possible, but I was caught off guard. She shared that she was marrying the heir to the company where she works as a receptionist, someone poised to take over his father's business. I had no clue about this development, but I genuinely felt happiness for her. Oh, that's wonderful. Congratulations, I exclaimed. Thanks, haha, the wedding's in a month, so I'll be expecting a generous gift from you. Ah, so she's after a gift. Mixed emotions swirled within me, but regardless, she's the daughter I've raised for 20 years, and this is a significant milestone. I decided I would hold off on any thoughts of divorce until after her wedding. As I pondered my next steps, Sally suddenly announced, "Oh, and just to be clear, you're not invited to the wedding." What? But you just mentioned a gift. Are you? She cut me off. I meant to wire the gift that day. There's no way I'd invite you. Sally continued, but I'm inviting my real mother. She's thriving in the beauty salon business, owning multiple chains nationwide and making quite the name for herself. A businesswoman, I echoed, stunned. Yeah, having her at the wedding will look great, and I'm sure she'll give a generous gift. Dad wants to get back with her, I asked, my heart sinking. Yes, seriously, what's the point of keeping a housewife? Are you serious? So because his ex-wife is successful, they think they can just toss me aside. I was in disbelief that I wouldn't even be invited to my own daughter's wedding. As I stood there, stunned, Sally taunted me further. Don't you dare show up at my wedding, you fake mother. Watching from the sidelines, Tom added with a smug grin, why are you surprised? It's obvious you're just a pretend family member. Plus, as Sally said, I want to get back with my ex. She's doing so much better. Ha ha. In that moment, all my pent-up anger and frustration exploded. Is that so? So that's how it is for the past 20 years. I've done my best to create a loving family, and for what? Taking a deep breath, I continued, if you're going to play this game, I have my own decisions to make. Fine, I won't be attending the wedding. I informed both my daughter and husband of my choice, and then left for a specific destination. A month later, on the day of Sally's wedding, I stuck to my plan not attending the ceremony, but instead finalizing my preparations to move out. I had already informed my husband and daughter of my plans, and I even had a signed divorce agreement from Tom. All that was left was to wait for them to make their next move. As I diligently packed my things, my phone rang. It was Sally, just as I had anticipated. Mom, where are you? Get to the venue immediately. Her voice was frantic, pleading for my assistance. The venue? What are you talking about? Didn't you just tell me not to come? Please, if you don't show up, the ceremony will have to be cancelled, she cried, panic and desperation clear in her voice. Oh, this was all part of my plan, I replied coolly. Mom, are you listening? They're saying they'll call off the engagement if you don't come. Is that so? It's largely thanks to me that your fiancé decided to marry you in the first place. Huh? What do you mean? She asked, her voice filled with alarm. With that, I revealed the truth. You see, I've actually met your fiancé before came to see me. Apparently, he'd been investigating our family. He'd investigated us for what? He told you he was the heir to your company, right? Of course. he would be cautious about choosing his marriage partner. His father hired a private detective to look into us after hearing about the engagement. That day, I had also visited a law firm, preparing to finalize the divorce on my terms. On my way back, I encountered a man who introduced himself as Sally's fiancé. He explained, revealing that his father had been investigating our family and had learned about Tom and Sally's frequent meetings with my husband's ex-wife. He wanted to understand why they preferred her company while treating me poorly. I told him everything, how the ex-wife had become a successful businesswoman and how my husband and daughter were planning to leave me for her wealth and connections. "Did you speak badly about me to him?" Sally accused. "I only stated the facts. You've been mistreating me for quite some time," I replied firmly. "Why would you do such a thing? It's unnecessary," she protested. "Unnecessary? Isn't it your own fault that this is happening? You're the one who did wrong," I countered, standing my ground. Sally fell silent, unable to respond. "But I'm not a monster. I've raised you as my daughter for 20 years, and I truly wanted you to be happy," I continued, trying to make her see. "A suggestion?" she asked, her tone softening. "Yes, if my daughter wants me to come to her wedding, I want him to marry her as planned." Surprisingly, even after I laid everything out, he didn't completely abandon his feelings for her. He admitted that he loved her and still wanted to marry her, but he felt uncomfortable doing so with someone who couldn't appreciate the person who raised her. I pleaded with him, if Sally chose to invite me to her wedding at the last moment, he should accept her decision. But she squandered even a chance. Instead of embracing me, she treated me like a burden until the very end, calling me a fake family member right alongside my husband. "Mom, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I promise I won't say cruel things anymore," she begged over the phone. "Hey, Diane, is what you just said true? If so, please help Sally," my husband chimed in, his voice filled with vain remorse. Naturally, I had no intention of forgiving them. They were the ones who had trampled on their last chance. It was far too convenient to ask for forgiveness now. They had forgotten the kindness I showed while raising Sally for 20 years, and quickly switched their allegiance to my successful ex-husband's ex-wife. I would never forgive them, never, I declared it firmly. Before hanging up the phone, I blocked their numbers one by one, picked up my bags, and headed to the apartment I had already rented. On my way, I didn't forget to submit the divorce papers at the town hall. Even if I had been invited to my daughter's wedding, I had made up my mind to divorce my husband. There was no way I could stay with them after enduring constant verbal abuse. Later, I learned it from my daughter's fiancé, that my husband and Sally had begged for the marriage to continue, crying in desperation. But once the truth came to light, it was far too late. The proposal was completely off the table. As a result, my daughter quit her job and became a recluse, while my husband devoted himself to caring for her mental health. It must have caused quite a stir on her fiancé's side. Feeling a mix of regret and sympathy, I reached out to him. He responded with kind words, saying, "It's okay. Sally and her dad turned out to be disappointing. Honestly, I'm grateful I found out before marrying her. I owe you, Ma. Thank you." If Sally had been with someone sincere, she would have been truly happy. While I felt a twinge of sadness about how things turned out, I had no regrets. I was free now, ready to pursue my own happiness and enjoy the rest of my life. "Erica, the bread didn't turn out quite right. Can you do something about it?" Sart asked, glancing at the loaf with a mix of concern and curiosity. "What do you mean, didn't turn out quite right?" he replied, puzzled. "Maybe we need a better oven." "Love, I've come across some fantastic options for sale lately," Erica suggested with a sigh. "All right, I'll talk to Mrs. Stacy about it," he said. "My name is Erica Walson. I'm 35 years old, and I work from home as a full-time Forex trader. I met my husband, Ethan, 2 years my senior, at a previous job. We were both employed at a small mail-order business in the pet food department, and I in customer service for cosmetics. The job was tough, often keeping us late enough to catch the last train home. Yet, we always looked forward to our weekly drinks with the same group of coworkers after those long shifts. During those days, we toiled away, putting in overtime after overtime, finding little joy in our lives despite earning a decent income. With little time to enjoy our earnings, our only escape was our nightly drinking sessions. It was amidst these gatherings that Ethan and I began to date, and we tied the knot 3 years ago. After our wedding, I left my job to stay home for a while. That's when I discovered Forex trading. I dove deep into learning, purchasing several books, and scouring the internet for information. It was a challenging journey. To become a trader, I invested in a trading computer, opened an account, and dedicated months to studying Forex, practicing with demo trades, and gradually trading small amounts. Eventually, I developed my own trading style and started earning consistently. However, my in-laws, who live with us, can't seem to grasp what I do. Last year, my father-in-law retired. They had been living alone in public housing, and Ethan, concerned about their financial stability, invited them to move into our 3-bedroom condo. I pay the rent for our place. When I first started trading, Ethan was still working, and we managed fine. Once my Forex income became steady, I took over the rent and all our living expenses. Dad, Mom, Erica is taking care of all our living expenses, so please feel at home, Ethan assured them. Erica, thank you so much. We appreciate it, they responded, and that's how our life with my in-laws began. I don't do any household chores, since we have a housekeeping service that handles everything. Mrs. Stacy, the manager, is an excellent cook and takes care of all the chores perfectly, allowing me to focus on studying Forex and sharing my earning strategies on various platforms instead of worrying about housework. Unfortunately, my in-laws aren't happy with this arrangement. Initially, they were modest and grateful, but after a couple of months, they started complaining. Why doesn't the daughter-in-law help around the house if she's at home? Is it really a job to sit in front of a computer all day? Forex is just gambling. Of course, they never said these things directly to me, but I could sense their nagging directed at Ethan. Since he no longer has to worry about rent or living expenses, he spends his salary on himself, and his wardrobe has become quite flashy. He always dons custom-made suits, brand-name shoes, and designer bags. Fashion has always been his passion, and he now indulges in it fully. He used to defend me against my in-laws' complaints, but that has changed. You're always glued to your computer, you don't wear makeup, and you only wear sweatpants. Isn't that awful? He said one day. Wait, what do you mean it's awful? Do I really need to dress up and wear makeup just to be at home? I retorted. You might be fine with it, but it doesn't reflect well on me, he replied. What do you mean it doesn't reflect well on you? We're at home. Why does it matter? It does matter. Don't you want to look cute for me? He pressed. Cute? Is that really necessary? I shot back. Since that conversation, Ethan has joined in my in-laws' complaints about me. One evening, as I was heading to the bathroom after dinner, I overheard a conversation in the living room. What's up with Erica? Is she mocking us? She always has such a bad attitude. Yeah, she is. She thinks we're poor just because we lived in public housing. Exactly. She does nothing around the house because she wants to act superior. Anyone can do Forex. She studied a bit and now makes $20,000 a month. I could do it too. That's right. It's just gambling. Another voice chimed in. Yes, she's acting all high and mighty. I can't stand it. She's not even that cute. Who does she think she is? Even though I work from home, I always had breakfast with Ethan before he left for work. Since he still works at the same company we were both at, he usually comes home late. We cherish those breakfast moments together, but he started avoiding them, saying, I'll eat on the go. I'm fine skipping breakfast. My mother-in-law scoffed at Ethan's behavior. Yeah, Ethan must be getting tired of a wife who doesn't fulfill her duties. It's only natural. Isn't it enough that Mrs. Stacy is managing everything so well? Talking about traditional wife duties seems so outdated. Outdated? We hold on to our customs. My mother-in-law scolded me frequently. What do you mean scolded? As long as the housework is taken care of, isn't that enough? I'm the one paying the bills. Bills? You think I'll stay silent about money for I feel living expenses? My mother-in-law, who had been living without the burden of financial responsibilities, seemed to be spending money socializing with her peers in their apartment complex. I noticed her purchasing and flaunting expensive brand-name bags repeatedly. Meanwhile, my father-in-law was investing his entire pension in his golf hobby. I even saw a new side golf clubs in our hallway. Meanwhile, I was the one covering rent and all our living expenses. I couldn't comprehend what they were up to. With my in-laws having nowhere else to go, I had no choice but to endure it. About a month after Ethan stopped having breakfast with me, he began taking more frequent business trips. He claimed to be involved in a new venture, importing leads from Korea, which led to a significant uptick in his travels. He mentioned another trip scheduled for the upcoming weekend. While Ethan was away, I decided to catch up with my friend, Lily, at a lovely Italian restaurant we had previously visited together. As we settled in and enjoyed our wine, I was startled to spot Ethan, despite him supposedly being on a business trip to Korea. "Isn't that Ethan?" Lily pointed out, her gaze fixed on a familiar figure. I turned, heart racing, only to see Ethan leaving the restaurant with another woman. "That can't be him, can it? He's supposed to be in Korea," I muttered, disbelief washing over me. Lily tried to brush it off, but I knew it was Ethan. He was spending the weekend with someone else while claiming to be away on business. The woman by his side was petite, radiating a youthful charm that was hard to miss. Looked to be in her early 20s, significantly younger than Ethan, who was 37. I couldn't help but remember his earlier remark, "Don't you want to look cute for me?" The realization hit me hard. Ethan was being unfaithful. I resolved to hire a private detective to uncover the truth. On Monday, I noticed a growing number of packages addressed to my mother-in-law arriving at our condo. "Are you buying more things, Mother?" I inquired casually. "Do I need your permission?" she snapped back. "No, that's not what I meant," I replied, taken aback by her tone. It seemed my mother-in-law had developed a habit of online shopping, indulging in a flurry of brand-name bags and accessories. With the surge of luxury products available online, I couldn't help but wonder if she understood the risks involved. Sure enough, one day while Ethan was at work and I was in my room, she knocked on my door and said, "I need your opinion on something." "What is it?" I asked, curious. "Come with me," she insisted, leading me to the living room. There, she had opened one of her packages. I bought 5 bags because they were on sale, but they seemed to be copies. You have to be cautious when shopping online, especially for branded items. Upon inspecting the bags, it was clear they were counterfeit. I couldn't help but wonder how much money she had wasted on these fakes. "What should I do about this?" she asked, worry creasing her brow. "You should try to negotiate a return with the seller," I suggested. She attempted to contact the seller, but had a hard time finding their phone number. When she finally did, it turned out to be disconnected. Emails went unanswered, leaving her frustrated. In total, she had spent $3,000 on these items. The e-commerce site had looked legitimate at first glance, but it offered designer bags at impossibly low prices. Since she had paid via bank transfer, I advised her to check with her credit card company for recourse, but the site had a strict, no cancellation policy. "Mother, it's essential to be cautious when buying brand name items. If the prices seem too good to be true, they probably are. Please think twice before making impulsive purchases," I urged. "You're such a nag," she retorted, dismissing my concerns. Feeling defeated, I retreated to my room to focus on my work. However, later that Sunday after dinner, my father-in-law unexpectedly confronted me about my involvement in Forex. He had heard about it while golfing with his old colleagues the day before. "I've heard Forex is a scam. Are you deceiving people to make money, Erica?" he accused. "What?" I exclaimed, caught off guard. "They say it's all about luring people in with promises of easy money, then tricking them into investing. Your Forex activities must be a scam too," he insisted. "No, I'm not persuading anyone to invest," I defended. "Do you think your father-in-law suspects you're engaging in fraud because you're making money so easily?" he pressed. "It's not easy. I've explained this to you multiple times," I replied, frustration bubbling up. "You're raking in cash with minimal effort. It seems like it should be easy. Meanwhile, I'm working hard at the company, trying to develop new ventures," he lamented. "What do you want me to do? Quit Forex? If I do, how will we pay for anything? We won't be able to cover the rent," I protested. "I can cover the rent at least," my husband interjected. They didn't seem to grasp that our entire lifestyle relied on my earnings as a full-time Forex trader. Yet my in-laws and husband continued to voice their opinions. The next day, the results of the infidelity investigation I had commissioned for Ethan arrived. As I suspected, he was guilty. He had been having an affair with a woman 12 years his junior, just 25 years old. She was a colleague who had joined the company after I resigned, so I didn't recognize her. However, it seemed he had indeed traveled to South Korea for business multiple times. 4 days, I grappled with the investigation's findings. How should I confront this? It was clear that divorce was on the horizon. That evening, after Stacy from the housekeeping service had prepared dinner and left, my mother-in-law broke the tense silence. "Erica, after discussing things with Ethan and your father, we've come to a decision. We're uncomfortable with you being here. We want to live as a family. Please leave," she said firmly. Ethan hadn't returned from work yet. "We don't want to rely on money earned through deceit. Your attitude, acting as if you know everything, isn't welcome. This decision was made after a thorough discussion with Ethan. We need you to go, she reiterated. To my surprise, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. All right, I replied calmly. The absence of my husband at that moment made it clear that any remaining affection for me had long since faded. I realized I had never been obligated to care for these individuals. That day, I packed my things and moved to a hotel temporarily. Shortly after, I'd initiated divorce proceedings upon discovering my husband's infidelity. I secured a cozy, one-bedroom apartment suitable for solo living and transferred the lease of our original apartment to Ethan's name. About 4 months later, I received a message from my ex-husband. He wanted to discuss something important and asked to visit my new apartment. When he arrived, I was taken aback to find him accompanied by my former in-laws. Erica, I'm sorry, please come back and live with us, he pleaded, tears welling in his eyes. What's wrong? What happened? I asked, concern creeping in. Without meeting my gaze, he choked out, we can't afford the $4,000 rent, and we're facing eviction. We have nowhere else to turn. Erica, please, we need your help. What happened exactly? I pressed, my heart sinking. According to Ethan, after I left, he embarked on a new business venture called LED Import Sales, importing specialized LED lights from a manufacturer in South Korea for use in factories and hospitals. Unfortunately, the lights turned out to be severely defective. Reports indicated that the sockets of the LED lamps were detaching, posing a danger of the bulbs falling out. Consequently, all the LEDs were returned, despite attempts to communicate with the South Korean manufacturer. Language barriers and vague contracts prevented any resolution. The venture had proven to be a colossal failure, resulting in significant losses, and Ethan ultimately had to resign. What was he even thinking? I muttered under my breath. In a bid to turn things around, Ethan decided to pursue a career as a full-time forex trader himself. Using the little savings he had left, he bought a computer and jumped into trading. However, without the proper education and experience, he made a disastrous trade that quickly wiped out his remaining funds. Meanwhile, my ex-father-in-law attempted to invest his savings in the stock market, hoping to recover some losses, but poor timing led to his financial downfall as well. With their finances in ruins, they found themselves unable to pay rent or secure alternative housing, prompting them to come to me in desperation. But we're already divorced, aren't we? I reminded them, trying to keep my distance. Yes, we are, but please, we need your help. I'm begging you, Ethan pleaded, his voice breaking. What happened to your young girlfriend? I asked, unable to resist. After I lost my job, I lost touch with her, he admitted, shamefaced. Well, it's not surprising. She wouldn't stick around for someone who's unemployed, I shot back. Erica, you're the only one I want now. Let's give our marriage another chance, he urged, his eyes filled with desperation. That's right, Erica. We realize now that we misjudged you. We're truly sorry. My ex-in-laws chimed in, their expressions earnest. Erica, I owe you an apology as well. I misunderstood forex trading and wrongly accused you of wrongdoing. I'm genuinely sorry, Ethan added, his tone sincere. I decline, I replied firmly, standing my ground. Please reconsider. I admit my mistakes, and I promise I won't betray your trust again, he implored, desperation creeping into his voice. That's right, Erica, Ethan won't cheat again. Let's go back to being a happy family of 4. My ex-in-laws echoed. I've already said no. If you continue to pressure me, I'll involve the authorities, I warned, my patience wearing thin. Despite their relentless pleas, my ex-husband and former in-laws eventually left, defeated. Is this family truly unbelievable? I thought to myself, shaking my head. After their departure, I received a barrage of desperate calls from Ethan, all begging for reconciliation. Each time, I stood firm in my refusal. I no longer felt the need to know what became of them. As I settled into my routine as a solitary trader, a longing for companionship began to stir within me. After discussing my feelings with my friend Lily, she offered to introduce me to someone new. Tomorrow, I have a meeting arranged with Lily and this individual. I'm cautiously optimistic about this fresh encounter.
Go ahead and get welfare, you poor thing. Those were the last words they threw at me before leaving. As they walked away, it felt like the weight of the world had collapsed onto my shoulders. I couldn't shake Greg's earlier statement. Even though you've always been independent, I felt like my pride as a man was wounded. From now on, I'm going to build a family with Brandy. Let's get a divorce. I signed the divorce papers, formalizing the end of our 18-year marriage, but as the shock wore off, I decided to pursue the division of our property. During a meeting with a lawyer, my sister, Brandy, had the audacity to demand her share of our assets. However, the lawyer's response caught us all by surprise. He burst into laughter before saying, "Aren't you the one living off welfare?" Brandy's face went pale, and she let out a horrified scream when the lawyer placed a stack of documents in front of her. "I'm Erin Anderson, I'm 45, and my now ex-husband Greg is 42. We were married for nearly 2 decades and have a 17-year-old daughter, Jenny, who's in high school. Greg and I met through work at related companies. At first, I saw him as a younger brother figure, but as time went on, our bond deepened. We eventually had Jenny, thinking we'd enjoy a peaceful life together once she grew up. But everything changed the day my sister, Brandy, appeared unannounced, suitcase in hand. Unlike my brother, I've never been able to get along with Brandy. She constantly undermined me, taking my belongings, my friends, and even my boyfriends. I'd moved to New York, earned my real estate license, and built a life of my own, hoping to keep her at a distance. Greg and I even opted for a private wedding to avoid her inevitable drama. But somehow, Brandy always found her way back into my life, like a shadow I couldn't outrun. "Wow, Erin, this is a nice house. Did you buy it yourself?" Brandy's voice cut through my thoughts as she wandered through our home. She didn't wait for a response. "I'll be staying in this room. It's perfect." I protested, but it was pointless. Today was a holiday, so Jenny was at school, and Greg was still at work. "Please leave before they get home," I begged, knowing my words would fall on deaf ears. That evening, Greg and Jenny returned to the house to find Brandy there, lounging like she owned the place. Who's this?" Greg asked, confusion written all over his face. Brandy flashed her practiced smile. "I'm Erin's sister, Brandy. I found your wedding photos at Mom's house and thought I'd drop by." Greg, knowing my complicated relationship with Brandy, looked uncertain, but soon enough, she spun a sob story about losing her job and needing a place to stay. Despite my protests, Greg and Jenny's sympathy won out. "Well, if it's just for a little while, I guess it's okay," Greg reluctantly agreed. And just like that, my sister wormed her way into our daily lives. She refused to help out around the house and even started taking money from my wallet without permission. I confronted her. "If you need something, at least ask before taking my money," I demanded. But Brandy only sneered. "Why should I? It's mine now." I held on to hope that she'd find a job and leave, but she never even bothered looking. Meanwhile, Greg's overtime hours at work didn't seem to reflect in his paycheck, and I began to suspect something was off. I asked him about it. "Your salary doesn't include overtime, right? Should I speak to HR about getting you the right pay?" I tried to keep my voice calm. Greg's response was sharp. "Out of character. I'm paid for my overtime. There's nothing wrong with my salary." The sudden defensiveness in his voice unsettled me, making me question everything. My sister was draining our resources, and Greg was growing distant. As my concerns mounted, I even spoke to my parents, who felt guilty for unintentionally revealing our marriage to Brandy. Despite the distance I had put between us, she had still found a way to invade my life once again. She must have planned this the moment she saw our wedding photos, I muttered to myself, realizing she had no intention of leaving. A darker thought crossed my mind. What if Brandy hadn't been fired at all? What if she'd quit just to freeload off us? If that was the case, I needed to act quickly before she tore my life apart once again. "You said you were fired, but wouldn't you be eligible for unemployment benefits if you were enrolled in employment insurance?" I confronted her one day, trying to make sense of her story. "I've always worked part-time, so I wasn't enrolled in anything like that. That's why I'm in trouble," Brandy shot back, her voice defensive as she shifted the blame onto me. Her twisted logic left me speechless, and suddenly everything clicked. Her never-ending job search had always been a sham. 3 months into her stay, my worst fears were confirmed. I discovered Greg and Brandy were having an affair. A cancelled meeting led me to a cafe where I saw them together, holding hands, laughing, completely oblivious to the world around them. The betrayal hit me like a punch to the gut. It's unthinkable, a brother-in-law and sister-in-law acting like that. I confronted them both later that night, my voice trembling with anger. "So, all that overtime was a lie? Pretending to job hunt while spending your days with Greg? At your age, you still have to take something from me?" I exploded, barely able to contain my fury. They didn't deny it. Greg, shockingly casual, added insult to injury. "If I had known how beautiful your sister was, I wouldn't have stayed away just because you told me to." His words cut deep, but it was what he said next that shattered everything. "I've always felt like my pride was wounded. From now on, I want to build a family with Brandy. Let's get a divorce." He slid the already prepared divorce papers across the table, his name signed. There was no going back. "Fine, we're done. There's nothing left to rebuild." I replied, my voice breaking under the weight of betrayal. Then Brandy, not missing a beat, sneered at me. Go ahead and get welfare, you poor thing, she mocked, her words drenched in contempt. Greg added coldly, since custody usually goes to the mother, Jenny should stay with you, do whatever you want from now on. With that, they left. Minutes later, Jenny walked in, confused by the heavy silence. Breaking the news of the divorce to her was harder than anything I had ever done. Shocked at first, Jenny soon seemed to accept it, perhaps with even a hint of relief. The divorce went through, but I wasn't done. I hired a lawyer and arranged a meeting with Greg and Brandy to discuss the division of our assets. Brandy, shameless as ever, demanded a share of what Greg and I had built over the years. What happened next was pure satisfaction. The lawyer, unable to suppress a laugh, replied, aren't you the one who should be on welfare? The look on Brandy's face was priceless, her bravado melted into disbelief. She screamed when she saw the documents the lawyer handed her, her face drained of all color. The reality is, this couple doesn't have much money left to divide, the lawyer said, bluntly delivering the news. Brandy turned to Greg, her shock evident. Greg, too, seemed stunned by the revelation, but I had anticipated this moment and made preparations. As it turned out, the only remaining assets amounted to a mere $112,000, not the kind of wealth they had expected. What happened to your savings, Greg? You had a substantial amount, I pressed, my anger flaring as I watched him squirm. You really never cared about Jenny, did you? We agreed to save for her education, I reminded him, my frustration bubbling over. I transferred most of our savings to Jenny's account as we had discussed. Greg paled, remembering our conversation about the money. So, what's left in the $112,000? He asked, his voice shaky. About 80% of it is your secret stash, I answered calmly, locking eyes with him. You knew, and yet you agreed to transfer most of the savings to Jenny, knowing full well this day was coming. You even signed the consent form, I said. Greg's face twisted in frustration as he realized the gravity of his actions. It felt strange when you asked me for that consent, Greg muttered, scratching his head, clearly regretting his ignorance. But it was too late. His signature made the transfer legally binding. The lawyer confirmed that the money now in Jenny's account was off limits. It was no longer considered marital property. I had ensured Greg and Brandy wouldn't touch a penny of it. Brandy, realizing what had happened, turned on Greg, her voice filled with venom. You said we had plenty of savings. You promised we'd live luxuriously together, but now, there's barely anything. Why didn't you see Aaron's plan? Greg avoided her gaze, too ashamed to answer. Throughout our marriage, Greg had contributed very little financially. He carried student loans, and I had supported the household. We had agreed early on that I would manage living expenses while he focused on saving for our future. Yet, after all these years, Greg's savings amounted to barely $10,000, far less than the $100,000 he led me to believe. As I sat there, watching Brandy's shock turn into rage, I realized something. I no longer cared. The money, the betrayal, it was all behind me now. I had done everything to secure Jenny's future, and that was all that mattered. Brandy, unsure of what to do next, trembled with frustration, realizing her dreams of a luxurious life had evaporated. All that was left for them was $112,000, and the consequences of their actions. I decided it was time to reveal another truth. Looking directly at Greg, I spoke hesitantly, unsure whether to mention it but knowing it had to be said. Greg, aren't you planning to quit your job? His reaction was immediate. He looked visibly shaken. How do you know? He stammered, glancing around nervously. I started to suspect when I noticed your lack of overtime pay and a strange section on your payroll slip. It also didn't escape me that you've been using a large chunk of paid leave all at once, which is unusual for you. You've never taken more than the bare minimum of time off. That's usually a sign of someone preparing to resign. I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. I had suspected for some time that Greg planned to quit his job, hoping to walk away with a nice severance payout after the divorce. I asked pointedly, is that what you're doing? Greg's face flushed with guilt, confirming my suspicions perfectly. I couldn't help but smirk. Well, you were my husband. You should at least know what kind of job I have and how much wealth I've accumulated. To think you'd rely on that while cheating on me, and even planning to resign? You really haven't thought this through. Greg's face turned red, and the lawyer's earlier remark about welfare hit a nerve. If two unemployed individuals come together, they end up on welfare, the lawyer quipped, adding salt to the wound. Brandy, realizing the precarious situation, suddenly shouted, wait a minute, if you can cover Jenny's college expenses and our living costs, you must be hiding something. Come on, confess, you're hiding assets, aren't you? Greg, emboldened by Brandy's outburst, chimed in, that's right, Brandy actually owns real estate. We should be dividing those assets too. I almost got tricked. The absurdity of their claims left me speechless, but the lawyer couldn't help but chuckle, clearing his throat. He began to speak plainly. Greg, as Erin's ex-husband, you should know that Erin owns real estate through her company, not personally. A corporation and an individual are separate legal entities. Erin's company assets are not marital property and cannot be divided. Realizing the mistake, both Greg and Brandy turned pale. The lawyer continued. What we can divide are personal assets like cars, houses, and cash. And since Greg and Brandy have practically admitted to their affair, Erin has every right to demand compensation from both of you. Their faces contorted in disbelief. Isn't that too much? It was just a few months, they protested. I cut in. Who decided that the affair only counts for a few months? Greg, you took time off work to secretly date my sister, and Brandy didn't even bother to properly job hunt, choosing instead to live off my money. Remaining professional, the lawyer set the compensation amount at $10,000 from Greg and $3,000 from Brandy. Shocked, they hastily agreed, desperate to get the conversation over with, but the matter wasn't settled in a day. 2 weeks later, we reconvened. Brandy, now more defiant, demanded, give me the house and the car, then Greg can get his $122,000, and I'll pay the remaining $1,000. How's that for property division? Her demands were so absurd that I nearly laughed, but I kept my composure. The house still has a mortgage and needs upkeep to retain value if sold. The car is only 5 years old and in great condition. Giving those to you would be a loss for me. Sister, did you even do the math? If you were selling the house and the car, you wouldn't be making such ridiculous demands. You're the cheating party here, and you have no right to make these claims. Turning to Greg, I added, the house is under my name. I bought it before we got married, so no matter how you spin it, it's mine. As for the car, if you want it, you'll have to pay me half its appraised value. That's how property division works. Greg finally showed a sliver of thoughtfulness, pleading, can't you just give us enough money to start over, please? His apology was shallow. He just wanted to avoid more trouble. Your apology means nothing, I said coldly, and given your attitude, it seems you don't want to pay child support for Jenny either. Why should I worry about your living expenses? Realizing they couldn't sway me, they reluctantly signed the papers. Weeks after the settlement, Brandy called me again, her voice laced with frustration. Why does Greg have so much debt? Weren't you covering the living expenses? What's going on? I explained patiently what should have been obvious. Greg had barely saved anything despite our years together. He had less than $10,000 saved. He probably bought things on credit without you knowing. Brandy, eager to vent, continued. Yes, he took out loans to buy brand name items, and his credit card was on revolving payments. It's a mess. How did he push this debt onto me? You're the one who stole him, remember? I replied with a half laugh. Brandy fell silent. It seemed Greg had been hiding debts I didn't even know about. Now, they were her problem, and I couldn't help but feel a bitter sense of justice in that. Oh, and there's something else I haven't told you, Brandy, I said, noticing her growing unease. Greg mentioned he's working in construction now, as a sole proprietor. While that means his income and residence taxes are deducted, he's responsible for managing his own payments, like health insurance and the national pension. Being self-employed myself, I've always taken care of my national pension and health insurance, and I did the same for Jenny when Greg left his job in real estate, but it turns out Greg hasn't been paying his national pension for a year since switching jobs. Brandy listened, her expression tight with frustration. I continued, I was covering the health insurance, so we had no issues there, but a national pension demand notice arrived at our house. I contacted Greg to ask if I could open it, and it was exactly what I suspected, a demand notice he'd been hiding. I had assumed he was taking care of it, just like I was handling my own, but no, when I called him about it, he nearly broke down, begging for help. National pension costs that much? You're kidding, right? I can't pay this. We were a family, weren't we? Can't you do something, please? Greg had pleaded, his voice dripping with desperation. The nerve of him to say that, I shot back, the same man who abandoned his wife and child asking me for help. My words silenced him, leaving him with nothing to say. Over the phone, Brandy, too, seemed to lose hope as the reality of their situation began to sink in. You'll have to figure it out yourselves, I said, calmly ending the call. Later, Greg called again, this time complaining about the high taxes on the car I had kept after the divorce. Maintaining a car costs this much? He whined. The taxes are in the hundreds, and the vehicle inspection is so expensive. Isn't it tough? I responded dryly. No, I'm not taking the car back, I added before hanging up. After that, he started sending emails, pleading for help, but after I warned him that I would report his messages as harassment, he stopped altogether. Their divorce turned into a circus of petty arguments, dragging on for months. In the end, Greg declared bankruptcy. Luckily for me, I had already secured my compensation, jobless, penniless, and now homeless. Greg refused to apply for welfare out of sheer pride. As for Brandy, the fallout from her selfish choices caught up with her quickly. After stealing her sister's husband and divorcing within 3 months, she was shunned by friends, family, and relatives. Her attitude and refusal to take responsibility made job hunting impossible. Whenever she did find part-time work, her domineering personality got her fired almost immediately. The lawyer's warning about welfare had become their reality. Brandy, still clinging to her remaining possessions, was ineligible for aid. After being evicted from her apartment, she, too, ended up homeless, just like Greg. Their actions, which had trampled on my and Jenny's lives, had brought them to this inevitable outcome. It was only natural, I reflected. Now, it's just me and Jenny, and our lives have returned to a peaceful normalcy. Jenny, relieved after Greg, who never supported her but always criticized her studies and ambitions, was finally gone, flourished. She passed her entrance exams and is heading to an Ivy League university this fall. As I watch her prepare for this new chapter, I'm filled with pride and a renewed sense of purpose. At 46, busy with work and still in good health, I feel more motivated than ever to keep moving forward. When is Selena ever going to get married? If you keep hiding at home, you'll never meet anyone, my sister Mullen often declared, always eager to compete with me. Her need to outshine me, whether in academics or extracurriculars, was relentless and often irritating. Even as we grew older, she reveled in the fact that she married before I did. Selena, you need to step up your fashion game if you want to catch a husband, she frequently advised. While I typically brushed off her jabs as typical sibling rivalry, one particular incident soon became impossible to ignore. My name is Selena, and I'm a 31-year-old freelance web designer. After high school, I drifted through years of factory work, lacking direction. The demanding night shifts and scarce days off quickly revealed that it wasn't for me. It was during this time that I stumbled into the world of web design. Eager to seize new opportunities, I quit my factory job and enrolled in a design school. After several years with a web design firm, I made the leap to freelancing, which allowed me the freedom to work wherever and whenever I wanted. Recently, my income has nearly doubled compared to my previous job. A huge part of my success can be attributed to my supportive parents. In gratitude, I decided to buy them a new home. Our family house was aging, so I chose a high-rise condominium. My parents were overwhelmed with joy, moved to tears by the surprise. Now, we live together in the condo, sharing a peaceful and happy life. When Mullen and her husband, Mitch, heard about our move, they paid us a visit. I can't believe Selena lives in such a nice place now, especially after working in a factory, Mullen said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. I could sense a tinge of envy beneath her words, as they lived in a modest apartment. You're a web designer, right? That must pay pretty well, Mitch added, trying to keep the conversation light. It's been good recently, I replied. Maybe I should give it a shot. If Selena can do it, how hard can it be? Mullen remarked dismissively. Her nonchalance about my hard work irked me, but I knew better than to engage in an argument. Why not try it? You have time as a homemaker, right? I suggested. Are you making fun of homemakers? Selena, you wouldn't understand what it's like to be taken care of by Mom, she shot back, her words hitting me hard. I kept my composure, reminding myself that it wasn't worth escalating the tension. I help Mom too, and I understand the challenges of housework, I said, trying to defend myself, but Mullen continued with her sarcastic remarks, her frustration evident. Perhaps it was the alcohol, but her comments grew sharper, prompting our father to step in. Mullen, don't you think you're being a bit harsh? Selena has worked hard to achieve her success, he chastised. Daddy, it's okay, I'm fine, I interjected, eager to prevent a family dinner from devolving into a full-blown argument, especially with Mitch present. Darling, Mullen, I think it's best to call it a night, Mom suggested diplomatically. Thanks to her intervention, we avoided a fight, though Dad remained visibly upset long after Mullen and Mitch left. I can't believe she would say that without understanding what Selena has gone through, he said, frustration etched on his face. Really, it's okay, Dad, I'm not bothered, I reassured him, and he finally seemed to relax. Months later, when Mitch's company unexpectedly went bankrupt, Mullen reached out to ask if they could stay with us temporarily, since we had spare rooms, and I figured it would only be until Mitch found another job. I agreed. I'm so sorry, Selena, for just showing up like this, Mullen said. No worries at all, Mitch has a degree, so he'll find something soon. Just stay as long as you need, I replied, surprised that she turned to me for help after her earlier comments. They assured me it would be a short stay, so I reluctantly went along. As time passed, however, they showed no signs of leaving. gradually making themselves at home. My parents grew increasingly worried about Mitch's job situation. It's been 3 months since they said he'd find something. Why hasn't he gotten a job yet? My mom asked. I nodded, sharing her concern. When I broached the topic with Mullen, she brushed it off. Mitch has a degree, unlike Selena, so he'll find work soon enough, she said dismissively, clearly unfazed by our parents' worries. Her snide comments became more frequent. Why don't you focus on yourself instead of Mitch? I retorted. What do you mean by that? She shot back. You're in your early 30s, right? Can you even get married? Unlike me, you're not exactly a beauty. Maybe no one will want to marry you now, she taunted. Her words stung, but I knew that reacting would only give her the satisfaction she craved. I don't need you to worry about me, Mullen. Maybe it's you who should be worried. Mitch will be fine, so just relax, I replied. Yeah, whatever. I held back my anger, knowing that arguing would only give her a sense of victory. Recently, even Mitch began to join in on the snide remarks, perhaps out of frustration from his prolonged job search. You only graduated from high school, right, Selena? He quipped, his words cutting deeper than he probably intended. Their insults hurt, but I remained composed, understanding that their frustration stemmed more from their own circumstances than from any real animosity toward me. Yeah, so what? I shot back, striving to keep my composure. It takes courage to be independent with just a high school diploma. Mullen's condescending tone pierced through the air. Why? What will you do if you can't earn a living? It seems tough to find a job with just a high school education. Really? Mitch chimed in mockingly. I can see it's just a temporary situation for you, Selena. Well, I have a college degree, so landing a new job should be a breeze for me, Mullen added smugly. Despite Mitch's ongoing job search, a surge of anger bubbled up within me at their attempts to belittle my accomplishments based solely on education. While I recognize the value of education, I've come to believe that it isn't the only measure of success. I once worried that being independent without a degree would be a daunting task, but I've learned that determination and hard work often matter more than formal credentials. Still, Mitch's relentless mockery of my high school diploma stung deeply, and their snide remarks seemed unending. To make matters worse, Mullen had completely stopped contributing to housework, leaving all responsibilities to Mom and me. Instead, she would either retreat to her room or spend her days shopping. Meanwhile, Mitch appeared to have lost all motivation for his job search, opting instead to lounge around the house, living a carefree life, in front of our parents. He even had the audacity to complain about the food, saying, "Wasn't today's meal a bit bland?" I was determined not to let them continue leeching off us and potentially become a burden in the future. Mom, how long do you plan to stay? If Mitch is struggling to find work, why don't you consider getting a job as well? I confronted them, frustration bubbling to the surface. Mullen shrugged, avoiding my gaze. It's fine, he'll find something soon. Her casual dismissal only fueled my anger. It's been almost half a year since you said soon. Mitch, are you making any progress in your job search? I might have an offer from a big company soon. I expect my salary to be higher than Selena's, Mitch asserted confidently. Is that so? I replied, irritation rising at his lackadaisical attitude. More importantly, Selena might struggle to earn a living in the future, right? Mullen abruptly shifted the conversation. Hey, don't dodge the question, I pressed. If that happens, we might have to sell this house, right? You shouldn't have bought a place like this. Mullen's tone turned accusatory. What are you implying? She challenged, defensiveness creeping into her voice. Why not let us take over the house? Mitch has a college degree, so his income should be stable. If you leave it to us, you won't have to sell it, Mullen suggested, a smug smile playing on her lips. I could barely grasp whether they were serious or just being absurd. Wait, do you realize what you're suggesting? Mitch hasn't even landed a job yet, I pointed out. He's bound to find a better one soon. It'll all work out. Plus, this could be a great opportunity for you, Selena. You should embrace living independently, Mullen insisted. What? I exclaimed, taken aback by her audacity. You don't need to rely on anyone while living under Mom and Dad's roof. Let them go and stay with us, she continued, brushing aside my protests. Enough, this is my home, and you both know that, I asserted firmly. It was clear they were scheming to push me out and seize control of the condominium. Their constant jabs and refusal to help around the house only confirmed my suspicions. Despite their claims of only staying until they found work, their intentions to take over my home were unforgivable. I had shown leniency due to their circumstances, but I couldn't tolerate their behavior any longer. It was time to evict my sister and her husband. When I confided in my parents, they revealed that they had been discussing the same issue for a while but had refrained from intervening, respecting my right to make the decision. That evening, We gathered Mullen and Mitch for a family meeting. What's going on? Why the sudden seriousness? Mullen asked. Confusion etched on her face. We've decided it's time for both of you to vacate this house, I declared. What, Selena? Why are you throwing this at us out of nowhere? Mitch interjected, incredulous. I've reached my breaking point, and so have Mom and Dad, I replied firmly. What do you mean? This is all so unexpected, Mullen exclaimed, clearly taken aback. We understand it's not easy to pack up and leave immediately, so we're giving you 1 month. You have until today to find a new place, I explained. That's still pretty sudden, Mullen protested, her voice tinged with panic. Turning to Mitch, I asked, have you managed to secure a job yet? His demeanor shifted, avoiding my gaze as he mumbled, not yet, but it'll come soon, lacking conviction. It's been 6 months already, hasn't it? Despite allowing you both to stay, Mullen hasn't lifted a finger to help with the housework, and both of you have been making snide remarks toward me, isn't that right? I pressed. Dad reacted immediately. I hadn't mentioned their snide remarks before, so I could tell my parents were shocked. Have you two been making snide remarks to Selena? Dad's voice was firm, and Mitch appeared visibly uncomfortable, beads of sweat forming on his brow. Daddy, it's not like that. It's not snide remarks. It's just friendly advice, Mullen interjected hastily. What kind of advice have you been giving Selena? Dad's tone grew more serious, anger flickered in his eyes, usually gentle but now intimidating. It's more like, Mullen faltered, clearly intimidated by Dad's pressure. Sensing her hesitation, I stepped in to clarify. They suggested that because I only have a high school diploma, my future prospects are uncertain, and that living alone might increase my chances of getting married. Isn't that right? I relayed to Dad what they had said. Dad's anger flared instantly. Enough of this nonsense. Uncertain because of a high school diploma? Better to live alone? Do they even have the right to make such statements? His tone was stern, and Mullen fell silent, avoiding eye contact. Let me make this clear, you have a college degree, so why are you struggling to find work? If Mitch is having trouble, why isn't Mullen contributing to the household income? After all, she also has a college degree, Dad continued, his words leaving Mullen and Mitch speechless. Selena, 1 month is far too lenient. They need to leave immediately. Both of you start packing your things, Dad ordered firmly. What? That's impossible. We have nowhere to go, Mullen pleaded, her voice almost breaking. I don't care. When I say leave, I mean it, Dad reiterated, his tone leaving no room for argument. Mommy, please talk to Daddy, Mullen begged, turning to Mom for support. I feel the same way as your father, Mom responded, surprising everyone with her agreement. Normally, she would side with them when Dad got angry, but not this time. No way, Dad insisted firmly. 1 month is too generous. Can you leave right now? I chimed in, my voice steady as I stood by Dad's decision. Mitch, supporting a crumbling Mullen, nodded in agreement. Reluctantly, they began gathering their belongings, murmuring a final, I'm sorry, before departing. To be frank, Mullen and Mitch had been a significant source of stress, hindering my ability to work effectively for the past few months. Thanks to my father's intervention, we were finally able to persuade them to leave, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me. A month later, Mullen unexpectedly showed up at our doorstep. What now? I asked, my tone guarded. Actually, Mitch and I got divorced, Mullen revealed, her voice heavy with resignation. She explained that after being forced out of my house, they sought refuge at Mitch's parents' home. However, his parents were extremely strict and outraged upon learning about their situation. Despite their displeasure, Mullen and Mitch had no choice but to plead for permission to stay, which was reluctantly granted. After that incident, Mitch began diligently searching for jobs every day, while Mullen took on more responsibilities around the house. Yet, as weeks passed, Mitch still couldn't secure a position. Despite holding a college degree, he lacked significant qualifications and had no notable achievements from his previous employment, merely following orders without contributing anything substantial. Numerous job opportunities were available, but Mitch's pride prevented him from considering them. He insisted on finding a role similar to or better than his last one. Realizing the futility of this approach, Mullen eventually brought up the topic of divorce. I never realized how prideful he was. It's not that he can't find a job, he's just being picky. Isn't that ridiculous? Mullen vented, frustration evident in her voice. While Mitch's refusal to compromise was undoubtedly problematic, Mullen, who had often demanded a higher income from him than I earned, bore some responsibility as well. One had to wonder how she would have reacted if Mitch had accepted a lower-paying job. So I've decided to move back in with everyone from now on. I appreciate your understanding in advance, Mullen announced, as if her decision was a foregone conclusion. That's not going to happen, I replied firmly. What? Mullen exclaimed, clearly shocked by my refusal. I've already made it clear that we can't have you living with us anymore, Mullen. Mom and Dad agree, I reiterated, my voice steady. But I'm divorced now. It's not the same as before, she protested. That's not the point. Your attitude is the issue here. Don't come back here, and don't reach out to us if you find yourself in trouble, I said sternly. But what am I supposed to do? I'm now employed, Mullen pleaded. You have a college degree, don't you? You should be able to earn more than I do with just a high school diploma, so there shouldn't be any problem, I replied coldly. With that, I escorted Mullen out of the house. She cried and begged for forgiveness, promising to change and help out more, but I remained resolute. I pushed her out the front door, and eventually, she left, defeated. Later, I learned that Mullen had found a job at a supermarket and was living independently. It seemed she had come to terms with the fact that she couldn't surpass me and had opted for a simpler life. Meanwhile, Mitch, still clinging to his pride and unable to find work, was eventually ousted from his parents' home. His whereabouts and current situation remained a mystery. As for me, I recently tied the knot. I met my partner through work, and after several years of dating, we decided to take the plunge. We had been contemplating marriage for a while, and I had already introduced him to my parents. The only person unaware of our union was Mullen. Now, I am happily married, living with my husband and parents in our home, enjoying a newfound sense of peace and fulfillment. Even if you try to stir up trouble for us, it won't change a thing for you. Your money holds no value for people like us, with our humble backgrounds. As I finished the final check, I added with feigned politeness, "You're closing your account, right?" "Go ahead," I said, my tone laced with sarcasm. Their disdainful glares made my skin crawl. It was time to give those who judge by lineage a taste of their own medicine. I smiled at the thought. I'm Tiffany, a 29-year-old office worker. I lead a quiet life with my mom, who has been my rock since my dad passed away from a long-term illness during my childhood. Despite his busy work life, he cherished family time, and I have treasured memories of playing with him on his days off. Mom and I were initially devastated by his death, but she made sure I never felt alone, focusing on the time we had together. Fortunately, Dad had arranged for financial stability with his former CEO, securing our future. Because of this, I was able to attend college, and both my parents' families were very supportive, especially my paternal grandparents, who lived nearby and helped care for me while Mom worked. We still visit both sets of grandparents for holidays like Christmas and enjoy those moments together. I owe my life to the support of those around me. In return, I attended a national university and landed a job at a major corporation. I considered following in my dad's footsteps at the bank he was set to inherit, but I chose to pursue a career I loved instead, guided by his advice to follow my passion. Having moved on from the bank, I had no worries about it. My fulfilling home environment and freedom to explore my interests left me uninterested in romance. However, as many friends settled into marriages and families, I began to reconsider. That's when fate intervened. I never anticipated that this meeting would lead to such a turning point. "Hey, Tiffany, aren't you IED in love?" It started innocently, a question from a colleague I'd known since our rookie days. "I know someone who's struggling to find a match. He's well-educated and handsome." "You're educated too, Tiffany. Would you like to meet him?" "Really? It seems like a waste for someone as accomplished as you, Tiffany. There are a few people in the office who have their eyes on you." With her vast network and knack for storytelling, she was always full of insights. Living with her boyfriend from a party, she radiated happiness and seemed genuinely concerned about my lack of romantic involvement. I even sought her advice about marriage, leading to this setup. A few days later, I agreed to meet a man named Yosef at a cafe. As I waited nervously, a man approached. "Tiffany?" "Yes, that's me. Nice to meet you. Are you YF?" "Yes, thanks for today." His expression was blank as he scanned me, and it felt like he was evaluating me. Taking a seat, he quickly began the conversation. "What do you do for work, Tiffany?" "I work in sales. I've always enjoyed interacting with people and sharing my ideas, which is why I chose this path. I find it fulfilling, especially when customers leave happy with their purchases." "What's the name of your company?" When I told him, he paused, a smirk creeping onto his face, not a pleasant one, more like a self-satisfied grin. "My company has a strong reputation. Our customers trust us," I said, trying to maintain a professional demeanor. "Please, sit," he replied. Deciding to turn the tables, I asked, "And you? What do you do?" At my question, YF puffed up with pride and began to boast. "I'm a department head at Sunrise Bank. It's a massive institution. You know, the work is demanding, not everyone can handle it, but since my dad is the CEO and I'm the successor, it's different for me. I felt a stir of discomfort at his arrogance. I knew Sunrise Bank was a major player in the industry, but his tone made it clear he thrived on his family's legacy. Wow, that's impressive. Sunrise Bank is well known, isn't it? I complimented him deliberately, sensing that this would be our last meeting. I figured politeness was the best approach. Encouraged by my flattery, YF continued to brag. Honestly, talking to him felt draining. He occasionally listened to me but constantly redirected the conversation back to his achievements, even lamenting about his poor romantic prospects. I'm quite popular, you know, but I always get approached by people who don't match my family background or education level, he lamented. I suspected his attitude was part of the problem but had already resolved not to see him again. Yet, he remained satisfied with himself, suggesting, I'd really like to meet your parents. Huh? We just met today. That's exactly why. It's important to know about each other's families, especially if we're considering dating, right? Inside, I screamed, I have no interest in dating you, but he seemed blissfully unaware of my discomfort. When are your parents available? I'll have to check with my mom about your dad. As he pressed on, my sense of unease grew, yet I struggled to cut him off. My dad passed away when I was young. At my words, YF narrowed his eyes. A moment of silence passed before he simply responded, I see, then fell quiet, deep in thought. Well, send me a date that works for you later. I'll adjust my schedule. No, thank you. Should we wrap up then? Before I could finish, YF stood up. It felt as if I was conversing with someone from another world. Despite my reluctance, I had given him my contact information and entertained the idea of meeting our parents. His contemptuous reaction upon hearing about my father's absence left me feeling unsettled. In the end, we agreed to meet again with our parents. When I told Mom about it, she smiled warmly. Riley, maybe you're just feeling nervous since you haven't dated before. Maybe, but his way of speaking was just strange. Well, his parents will be there, right? Just say no if it doesn't feel right. I'll be there to support you. Thanks, Mom. I'm sorry for dragging you into this. I felt a twinge of guilt, and Mom laughed heartily. It's perfectly fine, no need to feel bad. Besides, I'm curious about Sunrise Bank. Let's see how it goes. So, Yosef and I arranged the family meeting. At that point, I had no idea that YF had ulterior motives for bringing our families together. On the day of the meeting, we arrived at the fancy restaurant he had chosen. It's quite an upscale place, isn't it? I remarked. Yeah, it is, Yosef replied. Inside, our table was set, but YF hadn't shown up yet. We settled in and waited, and shortly after the scheduled time, Yosef and his family arrived. Sorry we're late, the traffic was terrible, Yosef's father said without any hint of an apology. Nice to meet you all, I offered, trying to keep the mood light. Thank you for having us, his mother added. Yosef's family unapologetically took their seats, and although I felt a flicker of irritation, I wanted to keep the peace as we kicked off the family meeting. After a while, Yosef's mother, Morgan, spoke up, her sly smile evident. So, where's your father? Is he joining us later? Huh? I glanced at Yosef, but he simply smirked dismissively and remained silent. I had already informed him that my father had passed away. Morgan acted as if she were unaware, despite our earlier conversation. Mom quickly intervened. My husband passed away from an illness when Tiffany was young, so I'm here today as her mother. Mom spoke calmly, but Morgan's tone turned exaggerated as she exclaimed, Oh my, so Tiffany comes from a single-parent family. I was taken aback by her words. Despite knowing my father's history, her tone dripped with malice. Life must be quite difficult for someone from a single-parent family, huh? But she graduated from a public university, that's commendable, right? Really? But wouldn't dating someone like her be complicated? Morgan continued, her words dripping with disdain. Yosef's family's conversation left Mom and me utterly speechless. They spoke so disrespectfully, treating my background as if it were something to be ashamed of. Such remarks aren't appropriate for a first meeting. I finally spoke up, anger rising within me. Excuse me, but after my dad passed away, my mom raised me with incredible care, I added, my voice low but firm. I owed my current life to my mother. Isn't it rude to speak about someone like that when you've just met? Yet, Morgan burst out laughing. Rude? Isn't it even more absurd for the daughter of a single parent to consider marrying into a high-class family? YF chimed in. I'm not really into strong-willed women. This is pointless, he added dismissively, realizing that reasoning with them was futile. I could only stare at them in disbelief. I had hoped for more, considering YF worked at a major company. Morgan continued, well, you'll eventually be running Sunrise Bank, so maybe she's just not on your level. as they hurled more insults. I felt no urge to listen anymore. Trembling with anger, my mom shot them a fierce glare. Did you invite us here just to look down on us? I've heard about how you enjoy berating us for being a single-parent family. It was the first time I had heard her speak with such authority. Please, stop with the accusations. It was just a little teasing, right? Morgan replied, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Mockery isn't funny, and all your comments come off as condescending. We won't tolerate this any longer, Mom declared firmly. Yosef's family looked displeased with her clear stance. How presumptuous of commoners. Commoners, huh? That may be the case, but you've solidified my decision, Mom said. For a moment, Yosef's family seemed taken aback by her words, then erupted into laughter, clearly thinking, what can you possibly do? With a sigh, Mom began to speak. Actually, we have funds deposited with your bank, but we don't wish to entrust them to people like you. Oh really? But we don't even know your name. It can't be much, right? Probably insignificant, Morgan scoffed. Exactly. Even if you try to trouble us with your funds, it won't matter. We don't need low-class poor people, YF added disdainfully. I realized that even Mom's last attempt at reconciliation was in vain. They continued to speak derisively, seemingly unaware of their impact, making it clear, we're closing our account. Okay, go ahead, came the mocking reply. Yosef's family looked at us with contempt. I thought, let's make those who judge others by their background suffer a bit, and I couldn't help but smile at the thought. Is that so? Then we'll proceed as such. Please consider this meeting never happened. Of course, we had no intention of marrying a daughter from a single-parent family. Well then, we'll take our leave now. Mom and I stood up. Oh, don't worry about the bill. It's too expensive for you, YF sneered. Is that so? Well then, with that, our family meeting ended. Later, I made a phone call. Weeks passed, and my mobile phone was inundated with calls from Yosef. I had anticipated this and had no intention of answering. It was their responsibility. I promptly blocked the number. A few days later, I received a call from Grandpa Kyle. Summoned by him, Mom and I headed to Sunrise Bank. In the meeting room, YF's family looked pale upon our arrival. As soon as they saw us, Morgan stood up and rushed over, bowing deeply. I am extremely sorry for what happened. I didn't respond to her words. Instead, I smiled and began to speak. What exactly are you apologizing for? At my question, Morgan bit her lip hard, trembling with anger. It was understandable. There were far too many reasons for her to apologize. This whole situation had escalated because I mentioned closing our account that day. Our account wasn't particularly large, so closing it wouldn't have significantly impacted them. But Kyle's situation was different. He managed the inheritance left by my dad at Sunrise Bank for our benefit and had his own account there. If all accounts, including Kyle's and my dad's inheritance, were closed, it would total about $7 million. In other words, their disrespect had led to this decision. Importantly, Kyle was the former CEO of the bank. My dad was supposed to take over but passed away young, leaving the position to Scott. I didn't know that Tiffany was related to the former CEO, Scott said. Anxiety etched on his face, as if making excuses. That's no excuse, I replied firmly. Even if you didn't know, your prejudice against our family is your own fault. You mean if we were relatives, you would have treated us differently? Hey, don't talk about my dad like that. It's your fault for not informing us from the start that your grandpa was the former CEO, YF interjected. I don't have any obligation to inform a stranger like you. Besides, you were the one who started this and made fun of us, remember? YF, unable to retort, narrowed his eyes in frustration. You insulted me knowing I came from a single-parent family. When I said I would transfer the account due to insecurity, you told us to go ahead. We simply did as we were instructed. But it may be just that for you. Have you ever thought about the feelings of someone whose family has been insulted? Silence enveloped the room. Morgan trembled, looking hopeless, while Scott hung his head. Yet YF still seemed unconvinced, his face contorted with dissatisfaction. Getting all high and mighty just because people talk to you, YF muttered, unrepentant. At that moment, the door to the conference room swung open, and Kyle walked in. His stern expression made Scott and Morgan go even paler, freezing them in their seats. Only YF shot me a glare, even after being given a chance to reflect. You're still only thinking about yourselves, Kyle said, his authoritative presence filling the room. It's not my fault, it's her, YF shot back defiantly. Watch your words. If you continue down this path, you'll only make your situation worse, Kyle warned. YF fell silent, glaring at me once more. Then, with a resigned huff, he exclaimed, no way, who would think that a single parent's relative was the former CEO? You knew I was going to be the future CEO and came to the family meeting just to mock us, I retorted. Yosef, be quiet, Kyle snapped, fixing YF with a piercing glare. YF was breathing heavily, still seething. Future CEO, huh? Kyle's attention shifted to Scott, who shrank under Kyle's intense scrutiny. I understand your desire to leave the bank to your son, but after seeing his mindset, it's clear he can't continue as CEO. That's absurd. You can't make that decision over something like this. Scott protested but quickly fell silent under Kyle's fierce gaze. You still don't get it. Your attitude is the real problem. While I may be retired, the board will have the final say. If you have something to say, direct it to them. Remember, we recorded both the previous conversation and this one. The voice recorder will serve as evidence. I pulled out a voice recorder and pressed play, replaying our conversation from the other day for them. How dare you prepare something like that? It's unfair, Morgan exclaimed. It was merely a precaution, but keep in mind, he pushed me into this situation, I replied. YF had no retort, his face turning an even paler shade. Thank you, we'll handle it from here, they finally said. Mom and I took our leave. In the end, Kyle didn't officially transfer the funds, but Scott was removed from his CEO position, and YF was demoted. Unable to handle the blow to his pride, YF chose to resign voluntarily. Given Kyle's influence in the financial sector, YF would find it difficult to secure a job in the same field again. As for Scott, whether he recognized this or not, he seemed determined to stay until retirement, though Kyle suggested it would be challenging for him, both mentally and physically. Morgan, who once held power as the CEO's wife, began taking on part-time work to maintain her lifestyle, but her character likely made it hard for her to keep a job. I'm really sorry, Mom said. It's okay, you didn't know, right? I replied. I only shared what happened with the friend who introduced me to Yosef. She had merely heard about him through someone else and wasn't at fault. While Mom had initially worried about being a single parent, I felt content now, living with the support I had received. When I told her this, she smiled and said, "Thank you." Once everything was settled, Kyle invited us to visit him at his home again sometime. I was truly grateful for his help in resolving the situation. It had been tough, but I felt happy now, so all was well. I have some good news for you, Kyle said. Really? It's not about dating again, is it? It's about a friend of my boyfriend. This time, he's definitely a good guy. I'm not interested in dating right now. I'm satisfied with my life as it is. I want to cherish those who support me, and maybe someday I'll meet someone I truly connect with.